Chapter 15. Bang, bang, bang. Someone knocked on the door. Little brother, we're leaving. Are you ready? Lin Xin knocked on the door in an unladylike manner while calling out. Yes, yes. The door opened, and Long Haochen walked out of the room. Lin Xin's eyes lit up. Wow, so handsome. Long Haochen wore a white warrior suit with arrow sleeves embroidered with silver dragon patterns. It was clean and neat, with a small silver dragon embroidered on both sides of his collar. In the middle of his belt, there was a light stone that emitted a faint aura of light. Long black hair draped over his shoulders. His pale golden eyes were clear and transparent like the stars in the sky. His lips were red and his teeth were white. His skin was as smooth as jade. He had a high nose bridge and slightly sunken eyes. It was impossible to find any flaws on him. In just half a year, Long Haochen had grown a little taller. His figure was more slender. He didn't have exaggerated muscles, but his figure was well proportioned with the perfect golden ratio. Long Haochen, who usually wore the simplest clothes, was already stunning. Now that he had changed into this slightly gorgeous warrior suit, even women would be jealous. Long Haochen adjusted his clothes awkwardly. Sister, there's no need to dress so formally. I'm not used to it. This set of clothes was specially made by Lin Xin for him. Other than ordinary clothes, Long Haochen only had the standard warrior suit issued by the Haoyue Branch Palace. How can you not be used to it? Little brother, white suits you so well. It's so handsome. Sigh, why couldn't you have been born a few years earlier? What a loss, what a loss. After spending so much time with you, your sister's standards have increased. If I can't find a man in the future, I'll take you for myself. Lin Xin sized up Long Haochen with her shining eyes while threatening him with her fists. At this moment, two heads popped out from behind Long Haochen and rubbed his calves while making woo-woo sounds. Long Haochen bent down and patted the heads of the two lizards. You can't go tonight. Stay at home and watch the house. Be obedient. I'll bring some dried fish back for you to eat later. This weird-looking fellow with two lizard heads was obviously the magical beast companion that Long Haochen had brought back from the knight's sacred mountain, the twin-headed lizard named Haoyue. The Haoyue had become a new species and was recorded by the knight's sacred mountain. It had been half a year since Long Haochen returned. Most magical beast mounts had their own living quarters, and only when the knight needed them would they be summoned to his side through a contract. However, Haoyue was different. It shamelessly followed Long Haochen and refused to return to its original space. The fusion of their bloodlines, coupled with the feelings of never abandoning and never giving up, made their relationship far closer than that of other knight and mount companions. The first benefit of the blood contract was something that Long Haochen had already felt when he first returned, and that was the telepathy. Usually, the equality contract would only allow the magical beast to sense the knight's thoughts and act accordingly. However, the blood contract would allow them to sense each other. Although Haoyue could not speak, Long Haochen could always feel the changes in its emotions. It was the same even if they were far apart. Hearing the word dried fish, Haoyue's eyes widened at the same time, and it even looked at each other in a very human-like manner. Its neck straightened, and it nodded at Long Haochen repeatedly. It looked like it was about to drool. Long Haochen hugged their heads and said, Then I'll leave first. I'll be back soon. As a member of Haoyue's branch, Long Haochen had an income of 5 gold coins every month, but he could not save any money at all. All the money was used to buy food for Haoyue. This guy was very gluttonous, and he especially liked to eat fish. His favorite dish was spice-dried fish. So much so that Long Haochen had become a genuine member of the Moonlight Clan. Sometimes he even needed Lin Xion's help. As time passed, Long Haochen was surprised to find that both of Haoyue's heads had independent thoughts. When he first came back from a knight's holy mountain, this feeling was not strong. Half a year had passed, and he increasingly found that the red-eyed head's character was slightly more violent, while the golden-eyed head's character was much gentler. After getting Long Haochen's promise, Haoyue happily went back to his room. He swung his big tail and closed the door. Lin Xin said with some envy, Haochen, Haoyue is too smart. He sticks to you all day like a child. Long Haochen laughed and said, "Yes, he's like my younger brother. No, I should say that he's my two younger brothers. I really can't do anything about them. Sister, let's go." The two left Haoyue's branch and walked on the street. Long Haochen asked, "Sister, what's going on today? Why did Uncle invite us to dinner?" Previously, when Lin Xin brought clothes to Long Haochen, she only told him that her father would invite them to dinner today and that he had some matters to discuss with them. As time passed, Long Haochen now knew that Lin Xin's father was Haoyue City's military chief, Li Aoxiao, and Lin Jialu's father was Haoyue City's consul, Lin Yingjia. All the cities within the Temple League jurisdiction were under the jurisdiction of the consul, and military chief was in charge of military affairs. Lin Xin smiled and said, "Today, it's not only my father who invited us to dinner. There's also Uncle Lin, Uncle Nalin, and Magic Temple's Haoyue Branch Temple Master, Uncle Baiyu. The Warrior Temple's Haoyue Branch Temple Master, Uncle Chunhua." Long Haochen was shocked. The 5 people Lin Xin mentioned were all big shots in Haoyue City. They were also the core of the city. Haoyue City was a medium-sized city. Among the 6 temples, only the Knight, Warrior, and Magic Temple's branches were established here. Together with the consul and military chief, they could almost decide everything in Haoyue City. How could Long Haochen not be surprised that these 5 big shots invited them to dinner together? "Sister, what?" Long Haochen asked, puzzled. Lin Xin said, "Naturally, it's for the upcoming Monster Hunters trials. We're all going to be participants, so they want to tell us something." As they spoke, they had already arrived at Haoyue City's administrative hall. Lin Xin pulled Long Haochen directly up to the 3rd floor. A staff member in charge of greeting them led them to a side hall. Long Haochen and Lin Xin clearly came a bit late. There were only 2 empty seats left on the round table filled with exquisite dishes. It was obviously prepared for them. Long Haochen's eyes swept across the crowd. He found that apart from Nalin Shu, there was another person he knew. Wasn't it Lin Jialu, who he had fought before? Lin Xin naturally also saw her. The 2 women looked at each other, snorted at the same time, and turned their heads away, no one paying attention to the other. However, when Lin Jialu's eyes passed over Long Haochen, she couldn't help but stare blankly. A dignified, middle-aged man's face sank. "Xin heir, don't be rude." Obviously, this was Lin Xin's father, Haoyue City's military chief, Li Aoxiao. Lin Xin stuck out her tongue, and then greeted the people who were already sitting there. "Hello, Uncle Lin, Uncle Nalin, Uncle Bai, Uncle Chun." Several middle-aged men nodded one after another. Long Haochen also followed Lin Xin's greeting and got to know these big shots of Haoyue City one by one. In addition to these people and Lin Jialu, there were also 2 sturdy young men. They took the initiative to greet Lin Xin, and Lin Xin and Long Haochen also returned the greeting. Of these 2 young men, the taller one was called Chen Si, and the shorter one was called Chen Shun. They were a pair of brothers from the Warrior Temple. Li Aoxiao looked at Long Haochen with a smile and said, "I've long heard about you from Xin heir. You're indeed a talented young man." In fact, when Long Haochen and Lin Xin arrived, almost everyone's eyes were focused on him. Lin Xin and Lin Jialu were also beauties, but Long Haochen's appearance overshadowed their brilliance. "Uncle Li is too kind." Long Haochen bowed slightly and replied politely. Lin Yingjia said, "Brother Li, let's start the feast first. Let these children eat first, then we'll talk business." Li Aoxiao said, "That's right. Everyone, don't stand on ceremony. Let's eat." Apart from Long Haochen, everyone else had a rough idea of what they were going to talk about today. Although the atmosphere wasn't warm, it was still comfortable. Especially the 2 brothers, Chun Si and Chun Chun. They wolfed down their food. Their appetite was even more astonishing than Lin Xin's. Of course, Long Haochen obviously didn't dare to say that to Lin Xin. They just ate and didn't drink. Soon, most of the food went into the stomachs of the youngsters. Li Aoxiao said, "The Monster Hunter selection competition is about to begin. The 5 of you are the elites selected by the 3 temples in Haoyue City to participate. This meal is to celebrate your departure, and At the same time, there are some things that you should take note of. The main event had begun. Long Haochen put down the cutlery in his hand and listened attentively. Lin Yinjia said, "The Monster Hunter selection competition has been around for a long time, and it's extremely important to our Temple League. It can be said that the reason why the Temple League hasn't been invaded by the demons for thousands of years is because of the existence of the Monster Hunters. Moreover, almost all the higher-ups of the Alliance and the Sixth Great Temple have participated in the Monster Hunters competition. How about this? The three Temple Masters will first introduce the children you selected. Brother Chun, you first." The Temple Master of the Warrior Temple's Haoyue Temple, Chun Chunhua, was a tall and sturdy middle-aged man. After hearing Lin Yinjia's words, he nodded and said, "Chun Si and Chun Shun, these two children are the elites of our temple in recent years. Chun Si is 24 years old this year, just below the 25 years old threshold for the Monster Hunter selection competition. He's a level 2 great combat master. He's an orthodox shield warrior and is very good at defense. The warrior temple was similar to Knights Templars, and a great combat master was a level 4 profession, which was equivalent to a great knight. The two brothers, Chun Si and Chun Shun, looked very simple and honest. When they heard Chun Chunhua mention them, they already stood up. Chun Chunhua clearly liked these two disciples and said proudly, "Chun Shun is 2 years younger than Chun Si. They're blood brothers, and he's trained as a berserker, which is better at attacking. He's currently a level 1 great combat master." Liao Xiao and Lin Yinjia's faces showed obvious surprise and surprise. The Monster Hunter selection competition only accepted youths below the age of 25, and the minimum cultivation requirement was level 3. It was indeed a pleasant surprise that these two youths from the Warrior Temple were able to reach level 4. For any city to send youths to join the Monster Hunters competition, it was a great honor for the city itself. If they could get a good ranking in the selection competition, the city's magistrate, chief of military staff, and branch temple masters would be rewarded. Liao Xiao said with satisfaction, very good. You're young and promising. I hope you can enter the final stage of the selection competition." The Magic Temple's Haoyue branch temple master, Baiyu, smiled and said, "There shouldn't be a problem for them to reach level 4. With the protection of these two children, they should have no problem entering the selection competition. I'm sure everyone is familiar with Jialu. She's an absolute genius in our Magic Temple. She's 21 years old and specializes in ice magic. She's already a level 4 great magician." Listening to Baiyu's introduction, although Lin Yinjia tried his best to control his expression, the pride in his eyes couldn't be concealed. Liao Xiao praised, "Jia Lu is really becoming more and more promising. She's definitely the future hope of our Haoyue city." Hearing her father praise Lin Jialu, Lin Xian was immediately dissatisfied and couldn't help but say, "Dad, don't boost other people's morale and diminish your own prestige. In any case, your daughter is also a level 3 great knight. I'm younger than her by 3 months." Liao Xiao glared at her. "You talk too much." Lin Yinjia chuckled and said, "You two girls, it's been so long. Can't you forget a little conflict? However, you must remember that before participating in the Demon Hunt selection, you must work together in order to obtain the qualifications to participate. It's very dangerous. You can't fight when the time comes." Lin Xian and Lin Jialu looked at each other and immediately turned their heads away. Nailin Shu laughed and said, "Xener has already set her cultivation base, majoring in Punishment Knight. As for Haochen, I must keep his cultivation base a secret, but I can tell you his age. Haochen is 14 years old this year, majoring in Guardian Knight. 14 years old?" Except for Liao Xiao, who knew in advance, the others couldn't help but be surprised. Lin Yinjia frowned and said in a deep voice, "Temple Master Nailin, you're not joking, right? How can you let a 14-year-old child participate in the selection competition? Don't you know that before participating, they must go to the border and kill at least 5 demons to qualify?" Nailin Shu calmly said, "This child's teacher is Yihua, the zombie-faced Knight Azura of our sub-temple. Everyone knows his character. He said that his precious disciple is qualified to participate in the Monster Hunter selection competition so it's certainly not a lie. We, the Knights Templars, will never joke around with the life of such a talented child. Lin Yinjia still frowned and looked at Liao Xiao. Chun Shanhua and Nalan Shu have a good personal relationship, so they didn't say anything. But Baiyu calmly said, "Fatty Nalan, you have to know, this is not only related to his life. If there is a situation in the team, it will even lead to the team's destruction." Nalan Shu snorted and said, "Don't worry. Although I don't know what level Houchen's cultivation has reached, I can tell you that in this Monster Hunter selection competition, he will definitely enter the finals and compete with the other 5 temples." Nalan Shu's words were resolute and decisive, showing his great confidence. Long Houchen sat there without saying a word. Yihua warned him not to easily reveal his current cultivation base, at least not before officially participating in the Monster Hunter selection competition. So, he could only keep his mouth shut. At this time, Lin Jialu suddenly said, "Dad, uncles, I believe Uncle Nalan's words. Because I have competed with little brother long before. He is very strong." Hearing Lin Jialu speak for Long Houchen, Lin Xian's eyes suddenly showed a hint of vigilance, and she moved her chair towards Long Houchen. Liao Xiao nodded and said, "I have also heard Exner talk about Houchen's strength. I believe he does have the ability to participate in this competition. The qualification for the Monster Hunter selection competition and the competition process are very strict. If you want to participate in the main competition, you must first obtain an admission ticket. Brother Lin has already said it. The 5 of you must, through your own efforts, work together and each kill 5 demons. Only then will you be qualified to go to the Temple League to participate in the main competition. The Alliance has already sent the supervisor in charge of our Haoyue Temple to supervise you to obtain the qualification to participate in the competition. In this process, no matter what danger you encounter, the supervisor will not intervene and will only let you fend for yourself, unless you take the initiative to ask him for help. However, if you take the initiative to ask for help, it will mean that you have lost the qualification to participate in this competition. Our Haoyue city is located in the southeast of the Alliance, only a little over 400 miles away from the border. We have discussed carefully and have already planned a route for you to infiltrate the demons. You must remember, retreat after the first strike, and do not continue to fight. If you really encounter a crisis that you cannot handle, then you must ask for help from the supervisor, even if it means losing the qualification to participate. Your lives are the most important. We have already handed the map to the supervisor, and you will set off tomorrow. You represent the Haoyue Temple League and also Haoyue City. Here, we wish you all the best in this competition." As he spoke, Liao Xiao, Lin Yinjia, and the other 3 temple lords all stood up and raised the teacups in their hands. Long Houchen and the other 4 temple lords hurriedly stood up and saluted the 5 leaders of Haoyue City. Everyone drank the tea in their cups together. Lin Yinjia said in a deep voice, "Ever since the demons appeared and entered the Dark Ages 6,000 years ago, we humans have been struggling for survival. It took us more than 2,000 years to stabilize our current territory. The demons are our mortal enemies, and every enemy we kill is a contribution to the protection of humanity. Although our Haoyue city is not a big city, participating in a Monster Hunter's trials is a big event that happens once every 5 years. In order to make it easier for you to achieve good results, we have prepared some gifts for you. As long as you can complete the pre-competition admission mission and enter the main competition, these gifts will belong to you forever. Follow me." The administrative hall of Haoyue City had a total of 4 floors. Under Lin Yinjia and Liao Xiao's lead, everyone came to a room on the top floor that was guarded by 10 warriors. There was no furniture in the room, only a few wide wooden tables, but a lot of equipment was neatly arranged on them. Seeing these equipment, the 2 brothers, Chun Si and Chun Chen's breathing became noticeably faster. Lin Xian and Lin Jialu were much more normal. Their families were rich and did not lack equipment. There was a hint of surprise in Long Houchen's eyes, but he was still very calm. Years ago, Long Xingwu once told Long Houchen that equipment was part of the strength of any expert from the 6 great temples. But any equipment would only be more valuable if it was obtained through one's own efforts. The Radiant Shield could be considered as Long Houchen's first real equipment, and right now, he was obviously going to have a full set of equipment for the first time. There's a lot of equipment on the table, and obviously not just one set for each person, so there was a lot of room for choice. Lin Yinjia smiled and said, "Although these equipment are not high level, they are still much better than the common goods on the market. In view of your current cultivation, most of the equipment you have chosen is amplification equipment, so that you can directly use the effect in battle. You can choose for yourselves now. However, you can only choose one set of equipment for the same position." Lin Jialu shook her head and said, "I have my own equipment. There is no need to choose." She was the daughter of an archon, and her family ran a magic equipment shop, so naturally there was no need for her to choose again. Lin Xian also shook her head at the same time, indicating that she did not need it either. Lin Yinjia and Li Aoxiao had clearly guessed that this would happen. These equipment were originally prepared for Long Houchen and the Qin brothers. The Qin brothers were already a little impatient, and under the signal of the warrior branch temple master Qin Chanhua, the two quickly walked up to choose. Lin Exin nudged Long Houchen, indicating that he should hurry up and choose, lest the good ones were picked by others. The quality of close combat equipment mainly depended on three aspects. The first was naturally the material used. The better the material, the stronger the equipment made. The second was the craftsmanship. The same materials, but made by blacksmiths of different levels, would have a considerable difference in quality. The third was the enchantment. A magic equipment was worth at least 5 times more than a normal equipment, and if the magic effect on it was strong enough, the value would be even higher. The equipment from low to high were normal equipment, alloy equipment, magic equipment, spirit equipment, glory equipment, legendary equipment, epic equipment, immortal equipment, and mythical equipment. For the sake of the young people participating in the Monster Hunters, the equipment Haoyu's city brought out was carefully selected. All of them were magic equipment. Although they were only the most common low-level enchantment to enhance attributes, any one of them would cost hundreds of gold coins on the market. Spirit equipment, which was a level higher than magic equipment, had to come with at least one skill. Equipment of that level must be worth thousands of gold coins. As a shield warrior, Chun Si did not hesitate to choose a heavy set of full body armor, followed by a thick and heavy tower shield. The armor and shield were reinforced with earth magic patterns, so their defense was the strongest among the equipment in front of them. The weapon was much simpler, just a long sword with the effect of increasing speed. Chen Chen's choice reflected the different emphasis of a warrior. He wore a fire element light armor and a pair of fire element long swords. Once activated with spiritual power, a layer of flames would appear on his body, accompanied by a fire element attack. This would further increase the attack power of his berserker. Long Houchen also chose a light armor. The armor was made of fine iron and heavy silver alloy and was very thin, mainly covering the upper body, elbows, and knee joints. The armor was dark silver and did not look very eye-catching, but there was a faint fluctuation of light energy on it. Enchanting the light element was more difficult than the other elements. Therefore, his soft armor, which did not even have a helmet, did not have a strong light element. It had a certain level of defense, and the advantage was that it was light. After that, he chose 2 heavy swords. Among these equipment, there was only one heavy sword with light element enchantment, so he chose the fire element for his second heavy sword. The shape of the 2 heavy swords was no different from the standard heavy sword of the night. The standard swords were inscribed with different magic patterns, and the center of each sword was inlaid with a 4th-grade magical beast crystal core. The swords weighed between 20 and 25 kilograms. For Long Houchen, whose external spiritual power was 200, this weight was nothing at all. Lin Yinjia asked curiously, "Long Houchen, aren't you the guardian knight? Why did you choose 2 heavy swords?" Long Houchen was a little embarrassed. "I already have a shield, so I'll choose an extra sword as a backup." "Can I?" Lin Yinjia smiled. "Of course." Li Aoxiao said, "When you go back, familiarize yourself with your equipment. We will be leaving tomorrow morning. If you complete the entrance ticket, the invigilator will bring you directly to the Alliance. How U.S. City will also send people to the Alliance to arrange everything for you. Yes. After returning to their residence, Lin Xin told Long Haochen to rest well and then went back. Long Haochen took out the 5 kilograms of dried fish he bought on the way back and gave it to his good friend Haoyue, the twin-headed lizard. He could not wait to try out the equipment he had just received. When he put on the light armor, he immediately felt that the light elements around his body seemed to have increased, and he subconsciously circulated his internal spiritual power. The light armor clearly rippled with a layer of faint golden light. Although it could not increase the spiritual power consumption when Long Haochen used skills, both his attack and defense were strengthened. More importantly, the armor was very light and did not affect Long Haochen's movements at all. As for the pair of swords, he liked them even more. Under the activation of spiritual power, the 2 swords swallowed and spat out light, especially the light sword that matched his element. It could spit out a faint golden blade of light that was more than a foot long. The fire sword's element was slightly weaker, but it did not repel light. With the spiritual power from the holy light, it could at least display 80% of its attack power. Long Haochen estimated that with this equipment, his combat power would increase by at least 10%. Moreover, with the Forget-Me-Not ring, he could switch to using the sword or the shield in his left hand at any time, which was equivalent to switching between the Guardian Knight and the Punishment Knight. Long Haochen. A cold voice came from outside the door. Teacher. Long Haochen hurriedly went forward to open the door and welcomed Yi Huan. Haoyue, who was nibbling on dried fish at the side, saw Yi Hua coming in and made a few unfriendly whines at him. It seemed that he was still holding a grudge against Yi Hua for what happened back then. Long Haochen brought his teacher into the inner room. Yi Hua looked at the light armor on his body and said, "U.S. City is quite big. However, you don't even have a piece of spirit-level equipment? You really treat me differently." Long Haochen smiled and said, "It is already a pleasant surprise to have a full set of magic equipment. Teacher, didn't you say that a true expert cannot rely too much on equipment?" Yi Hua snorted and said, "That was when I was teaching you. It is different now. The Monster Hunters Trials is not just a competition. It can be said that it is basically a war. One mistake, and you will lose your life." Long Haochen said, "Teacher, do you not have that much confidence in me?" Yi Hua said, "It is one thing to have confidence, but it is another thing to prepare for a rainy day. You will be leaving tomorrow, and I will also be heading to the Temple League. I will be waiting for you there to participate in the main competition. This is for you." While speaking, Yi Hua took off a gray metal wrist guard from his wrist. This wrist guard seemed to be very ordinary just by looking at its appearance. However, when Yi Hua took off the wrist guard, Long Haochen was surprised to see that the inside of the wrist guard was actually a light gold color. It was made up of at least 100 light gold gems that were the size of rice grains. Long Haochen was not an expert in forging equipment, but not knowing about these gems did not affect his judgment of this equipment. Just the light attribute spiritual wave emitted by the wrist guard was already much stronger than the few pieces of equipment that he had. "Teacher is poor, so I don't have anything good to give you. This spiritual light wrist guard can produce a holy light shield after spiritual power is injected into it. It can be activated 3 times a day and can last for 1 minute each time. Holy Light Shield was a defensive skill that a great knight could use for a guardian knight. Its defensive effect was much stronger than Spiritual Light Shield. Moreover, the biggest advantage of Holy Light Shield was that it could control its range. The larger the range, the lower the defensive power. More importantly, within the range of Holy Light Shield, there was also a certain healing effect. It was one of the few skills that a guardian knight could use. The only flaw was that it consumed a lot of spiritual power. Activating this skill required 50 points of spiritual power, and every second that it was activated would consume an additional 5 points of spiritual power. From this, it could be seen how precious this equipment that Yi Hua casually threw to Long Haochen was. Every time it was used, it was equivalent to saving 350 points of spiritual power. Furthermore, it could be activated 3 times a day, so it was definitely a life-saving item. It could be considered as a rare treasure, even among spirit demon equipment. Teacher, this is too precious. I can't take it. Yi Hua's face darkened. You think it's too bad? If I don't want it, then just throw it away. I'm going back. As he spoke, he stood up and walked out. Long Haochen said helplessly, Teacher, I didn't mean that. This spiritual light shield is too precious. Yi Hua walked to the door and stopped. I don't have any relatives. I only have you as my disciple. After saying this, he waved his hand at Long Haochen, indicating that he didn't need to send him out, and left by himself. Looking at the spiritual light shield in his hand, Long Haochen's heart was filled with warmth. Teacher, I won't let you down. Early morning, Hao U.S. City, East Gate. This was the place where they agreed to meet last night. Li Exan rode on her rose unicorn that had grown to the peak of rank 5 in 2 years, and headed towards the East Gate with Long Haochen. After more than 2 years, Long Haochen was no longer a child. He was naturally too embarrassed to share a ride with Li Exan. Nailan Shu gave him a healthy horse, and he rode on the horse's back, walking side by side with Li Exan. Long Haochen, where's Hao Yue? Where did it go? Li Exan looked around and didn't see the twin-headed lizard that stuck to Long Haochen all day long. She couldn't help but be curious. Ever since Long Haochen brought it back, this guy was practically inseparable from Long Haochen. Long Haochen smiled and said, Sister, it's nearby. When we get out of the city, it will naturally appear. Li Exan said curiously, I really feel that Hao Yue is smarter than my rose, but it's only rank for mid-rank. Soon, the two of them arrived at the East Gate. At this time, the excited Chen brothers were already waiting there, but Lin Jialu hadn't arrived yet. Miss Exiner, little brother Long, Chan Si took the initiative to greet them. They were very respectful towards Lin Xin and her brothers. As for Long Haochen, they only regarded him as Lin Xin's subordinate. After all, Nailan Shu said yesterday that Long Haochen was only 14 years old this year. How much ability could a 14-year-old child have? Lin Xin was different. Not only was her cultivation higher than theirs, but she also possessed a powerful magical beast like the rose unicorn. Her overall strength was comparable to the two brothers added together. The status of a knight had always been much higher than that of a warrior, so they naturally hoped to have a good relationship with Lin Xin. Those who were selected to participate in the Monster Hunters trial were all talented people. The upcoming test required everyone's cooperation. Lin Xin nodded to them and said, Lin Jialu still hasn't arrived? Chen Si smiled and said, It's not time yet. Let's wait for a while. Lin Xin nodded with a calm face. The two brothers, Chen Si and Chen Shun, were also riding healthy horses. Just as they were talking, a carriage came slowly and stopped not far in front of them. The curtain was lifted, and Lin Jialu jumped down from the carriage, but she stood there respectfully. Then, an old man came down from the carriage. This old man looked to be 60 or 70 years old. His gray hair was meticulously combed, and the slightly fragrant hair wax made his short hair shiny. He had thick eyebrows and big eyes, but his gaze was slightly cold. His lips were slightly thin, and his temperament was both arrogant and noble, giving people a feeling that it was not easy to get close to him. He wore a light blue magic robe. The edges of the robe were outlined with golden threads. The robe itself also emitted a faint metallic luster, and the active wind elements naturally circled around his body. He held a long magic staff in his hand. The staff was dark green, and there was an egg-sized blue and white gem at the top. Lin Jialu respectfully said, Lord Supervisor, please. The old man nodded and looked at her. His arrogant eyes softened a bit. Let's go. Accompanied by Lin Jialu, he came in front of Long Haochen and the others. Everyone hurriedly dismounted. Without a doubt, this old man was the supervisor sent by the Temple League, and he was a magician. Although there was no obvious magic wave coming from his body, it was obvious that Lin Jialu was no match for him. The old man walked in front of everyone and did not say much. He only said lightly, Let's go. Chapter 16. Let's go. The old man who was the supervisor gave the order in a flat voice. As he spoke, he casually waved the staff in his hand. A ball of green light enveloped his body and lifted him off the ground. He floated a meter above the ground and moved forward. You can pretend that I don't exist. I won't give you any help unless you plan to withdraw from this selection. The old man's voice floated in front of them. The green light suddenly became intense, and in the next moment, the supervisor actually disappeared into thin air. The others were startled by the sudden disappearance of the invigilator. Only Long Houchen's gaze flickered as he subconsciously glanced behind him. This is the map. Lin Jialu took out a sheepskin map from her pocket and spread it out in front of everyone. We have to keep heading east and sneak into the territory controlled by the demons. These are for you. As she spoke, she took out 5 round tokens from her pocket. After keeping one for herself, she gave the other 4 to the 4 of them. Long Houchen took the token and looked at it. The token was very exquisite. It was made entirely of heavy silver and was inlaid with a light purple gem. It emitted a faint magical wave. This is our token for participating in the Monster Hunter selection. Our identity, origin, and participation number are recorded on the back. If we can't pass the entrance test, the supervisor will take back the token. With this token, we won't be troubled by the Alliance garrison, but we won't get their help either. After entering the territory of the demons, everything will depend on us. It's best if we can meet a few patrols of the demons. As long as we complete the task of killing a total of 25 demons, we can retreat. At this point, Lin Jialu paused. She deliberately glanced at Lin Xin and said, "With our cultivation, it's not difficult to complete this task. However, since we're acting as a group, we have to exert the strength of a group. A snake can't be without a head. Before we set off, it's best to choose a leader so that we can coordinate when there's a battle." Lin Xin snorted coldly. "So, you're going to be the leader?" Lin Jialu glanced at her and said unyieldingly, "Why not? My cultivation is the highest here, and I'm also a magician. It's the easiest for me to observe the entire battlefield from the rear, so I'm the most suitable commander." Lin Xin frowned slightly. After thinking for a while, she nodded to Lin Jialu and said, "All right, I'll follow your lead." Lin Jialu was stunned. She obviously didn't expect Lin Xin to be so easy to talk to. He couldn't help but look at her doubtfully. Lin Xin harumphed. "What are you looking at? I'm a fair person. Even if it's for the sake of my brother's safe return, I won't hold a grudge against you at this time. However, if there's a mistake in your command on the battlefield, I won't hesitate to strip you of your command." Lin Jialu chose to ignore Lin Xion's threat and looked at the Chun brothers. "Do you have any objections?" Chun Si and Chun Chun both shook their heads. The 2 brothers were simple and honest, and they admitted that they were not as good as the 2 young ladies. Naturally, they would not have any objections. "All right, if that's the case, then let's go." Lin Jialu gave her first command as a leader. Long Houchen stood beside Lin Xin gloomily and thought to himself, "Why didn't she ask for my opinion?" At this moment, Lin Jialu walked towards him. "Little brother Long, I'm wearing a robe, so I can't ride a horse. Take me with you. I'll sit behind you." "Ah." Long Houchen stared dumbfoundedly at Lin Jialu, who had a gentle gaze and a sweet smile on her face. Then, he looked at Lin Xin, who had suddenly turned as cold as ice. He didn't know how to answer her. Lin Jialu smiled and didn't even look at Lin Xin. She said, "You're the guardian knight. Shouldn't you protect the safety of a magician?" As she spoke, she stretched out her hand to Long Houchen and gestured for him to pull her up the horse. "I'll ride with you." A slender hand reached out from the side and pulled Lin Jialu onto the back of the horse. It was none other than Lin Xin. Lin Jialu was shocked and said angrily, "Who wants to ride with you? You're the punishment knight. Can you protect me?" Lin Xin said fiercely, "Either you choose the Chun brothers, or this is it. You want to take advantage of my brother? Dream on. I won't give you the chance." As she spoke, Lin Xin lightly kicked the horse's abdomen. The rose unicorn galloped forward like a red arrow, and under Lin Jialu's angry roar, it rushed forward. Long Houchen and the Chun brothers looked at each other, their faces revealing a bit of helplessness. They quickly whipped their horses and chased after them. A pitch-black figure followed closely behind them, moving forward close to the ground like a black arrow. Its two heads looked left and right, looking extremely excited. For the rose unicorn, a distance of more than 400 miles would only take 4 hours at most. However, Long Houchin and the others' ordinary horses would not be able to cover that distance. They set off early in the morning and only arrived near the border in the evening. With the selection number, the five successfully passed through the garrison area of the Temple League army and left their horses there. After a simple dinner, they quietly entered the demon's territory. To reduce the possibility of being discovered, Lin Xin let the rose unicorn return to its space. Under the cover of the night, they passed through a hill and arrived at the demon's territory in the distance. Stop for a moment. Lin Jialu called for everyone to stop and took out the map again. Although she had tacitly agreed to ride with Lin Xin, she still looked a little unhappy. Everyone surrounded Lin Jialu and squatted down. Lin Jialu spread out the map and pointed at it, saying, "We are currently at this position. About 200 miles ahead, the demon army is stationed. It's not practical to attack the army camp directly. That will only make it impossible for us to return. Therefore, our mission is to wipe out the demon scouts in the next few days. From now on, everyone must maintain a good formation. Lin Xin, you'll be at the front. Chun Si, Chun Chun, you two brothers will be at the flanks. Little brother Long, you'll be at the back. I'll be in the middle. Once we encounter an enemy, listen to my orders. Understood?" Although she didn't look too good, Lin Jialu was very calm at the moment. Her beautiful face had a bit of dignity. Everyone, including Lin Xin, nodded. Lin Jialu put away the map. When everyone stood up again, they couldn't help but look in the direction of the demons. Nervousness, excitement, and a bit of fear made them all vigilant. About to face a great enemy of humanity, the hero complex in their hearts was more or less stimulated. "Haoyue, come out," Long Houchin said in a low voice. A black shadow flashed. The two-headed lizard Haoyue had already silently appeared next to Long Houchin. Its appearance instantly shocked everyone. "Everyone, don't be nervous. This is my companion," Long Houchin hurriedly explained in a low voice. Everyone couldn't help but look at Haoyue. The one who was the most surprised was Lin Jialu. As a magician, her spiritual energy was naturally much stronger than that of melee professions. Her perception was also much stronger. However, she didn't even notice Haoyue's existence. "This is your mount companion?" Lin Jialu asked, a bit confused. Long Houchin nodded. Lin Jialu's eyes showed a bit of pity. She said, "All right, its figure isn't obvious. Let's go." Long Houchin took off the radiant shield and lightsaber on his back and silently walked at the back. The five of them formed a rhombus formation, crossed over the hills, and finally entered the territory of the demons. In front of them was a large plain that stretched as far as the eye could see. However, when a wind blew, they could faintly smell a bit of blood. With the appearance of the demons, it had been 6,000 years since the Dark Age began. Both humans and demons had shed too much blood on this plain. Lin Jialu was still holding the magic staff that she didn't use when she fought against Long Houchin. She lightly tapped the magic staff in the air, accompanied by a few incantations. A transparent bird-shaped silhouette spread its wings and soared into the air, flying high into the sky. Lin Jialu's eyes were also covered with a faint layer of light. Eagle Eye was a magic that all magicians had to learn. It allowed the user to look down from the sky and observe far away. The higher the level of cultivation, the wider the range of the Eagle Eye. Lin Xin slightly frowned and said, "The terrain here is too open. It's not suitable for us to set up an ambush. Find a place where we can hide." Lin Jialu slightly nodded and said, "There is a hilly area 5 miles ahead to the left. In front of the hilly area is a shrub. Let's go there for the time being. After that, we'll move forward slowly. There are no enemies within a 10-mile radius. Let's go." Lin Xin nodded. The group sped up their pace according to Lin Jialu's instructions. Long Houchin was surprised to find that the two Haoyue sisters, who usually quarreled whenever they saw each other, didn't show any signs of quarreling at this time. The group of 5 was led by the 2 of them. Lin Xian was scouting ahead, while Lin Jialu was commanding and scouting in the middle. The Chun brothers and Long Haochen were very relaxed. They only needed to follow along. Under the guidance of Lin Jialu's eagle eye, the group moved forward very cautiously. After an hour, they used the rare cover on the plain to move about 50 miles. Every time they arrived at a place where they could hide, Lin Jialu would mark it on the map and then continue moving forward. The route they took to enter the demons' territory was carefully selected by the leaders of Haoyue City. From the Temple Li garrison to the nearest garrison of the demons, it was only 200 miles of open land. Although the terrain wasn't favorable, it was close, and it was much more convenient to retreat. The night gradually darkened. After moving for about 80 miles, Lin Jialu found a shrub and ordered them to rest. "We can't go any closer. If we go any further, it's very likely that we will enter the detection range of the demons," Lin Jialu said in a low voice. Lin Xian nodded and said, "I also heard from my father that there are some powerful magicians in the demons' camp. Their eagle eye can detect as far as 100 miles. If we go any further, the chances of being discovered will be very high. Let's just wait here for the hare." The group ate some food again to maintain their strength and waited quietly in the same place. Only Lin Jialu kept using her eagle eye to investigate the surroundings. The night passed quietly. The sky gradually brightened. After a night of waiting, they didn't see a single demons patrolling. The 5 of them couldn't help but feel a little disappointed. Especially Lin Jialu, who kept using her eagle eye, was already a little tired. "Strange, don't these demons patrol?" Chen Si asked in confusion. The 5 of them looked at each other, their faces showing some helplessness. Although they were all the best of the younger generation in Haoyue City, none of them had participated in the war. The mission that originally didn't seem difficult seemed to have become troublesome. There was also a time limit to the admission ticket. They only had 3 days in total. If they exceeded this time, they wouldn't be able to go to the Temple League to participate in the selection. Lin Xian frowned and said, "If it really doesn't work, I'll ride rows deeper into the detection range of the demons. That way, they should be able to react." Lin Jialu immediately said, "No, it's too dangerous. Your rose unicorn is too obvious. If we're not careful, it will attract a strong enemy and we'll all be wiped out." While they were discussing countermeasures, Long Haochen, who had been quietly listening, suddenly shouted, "Be careful, there's an enemy." As he said that, he suddenly raised the lightsaber in his hand, and a layer of pale golden light instantly enveloped the 5 of them. Spirit light shield. Almost in the next moment, a violent vibration came from under their feet. With a poof, the spirit light shield shattered. But at the same time, another layer of spirit light shield lit up under Long Haochen's feet, finally blocking the attack from under their feet. A series of extremely thick spikes that were about 1.5 meters long emerged from the spirit light barrier. If Long Haochen's reaction had been a step slower, then they would have had to endure this attack with their bodies. There were 7 or 8 thick spikes, and they were purplish-black in color. There was also a faint purplish-black aura rippling on them. The second spirit light shield was not created by Long Haochen. The speed at which he used his skill was not that fast. It was released by the golden-eyed lizard head in Haoyue. It connected perfectly with Long Haochen's spirit light shield, completing this defense for everyone. It's the Luke tribe. The 5 of them were all elites of the younger generation in Haoyue City. After a short moment of shock, they all reacted. At the same time, Lin Xian shouted, a pair of long swords shining with scarlet light in her hands fiercely stabbed into the ground. Long Haochen, Chun Si, and Chun Chun did the same. Poof, poof, and the ground shook violently. Lin Jialu pointed her wand downwards, and a blue light shot towards the ground. At the same time, she shouted, "Pull out your weapons." The blood-stained weapons were pulled out from the ground. Immediately after, everyone felt a chill under their feet. The ground had already been frozen solid like steel. Lin Jialu used the ice wall spell directly under their feet. One after another, thick spikes burst out from the ground around the 5 of them. Then, one figure after another shot out from the ground and surrounded Long Houchen's group of 5. They were ferocious-looking creatures that resembled humans. They were about 1.7 meters tall. Their upper bodies were bare, and their lower bodies were covered in fine black scales. Their upper bodies were purplish-black, and they had 3 eyes on their heads. The most peculiar thing about them was their 4 arms. That's right, each of these monsters had 4 arms, and each arm was shaped like a sharp cone. The 4 arms were completely keratinized, like triangular spikes, and the tips emitted a faint cold light. Although Long Houchen and the others had learned about demons in their respective temple and had also seen the atlas of the various races of demons, they couldn't help but feel a little nervous when facing the demons. 6,000 years ago, the 72 demon god pillars suddenly descended on the holy demon continent, causing a large number of creatures to mutate. Later, they gradually transformed into the various combat powers of demons. Among them, there were more than 20 races, and the ones in front of them were one of them, the Luke tribe. Compared to humans, the most terrifying thing about demons was their talent for combat. Regardless of gender or age, they could all participate in battle. The talent of demons was far beyond that of humans. Even without any training, they could still become powerful warriors. The talent of the Luke tribe was their 4 spike-shaped arms. They weren't very strong in direct combat, but they were extremely good at sneak attacks. When the 4 arms were raised at the same time and closed over their heads, they could quickly drill through the ground, as fast as running. When they suddenly launched an attack from below, it was impossible to defend against. At this moment, there were about 16 or 17 Luke tribe warriors surrounding Long Houchen's group of 5. Among them, there were still a few spikes that hadn't emerged from the ground. Clearly, they had died to the direct counterattack from Long Houchen's group. As soon as these Luke tribe warriors rushed out of the ground, they immediately rushed at Long Houchen's group of 5 with strange cries. The spikes on their bodies emitted a cold light, looking extremely tyrannical. Because the enemies were coming from all directions, the other 4, with the exception of Lin Jialu, had to fight their own battles. Although they were a little nervous, they were, after all, grade 4 professionals. They didn't act rashly, maintaining their formation with Lin Jialu in the center and raising their weapons. The first to act was Hao Yue, who was standing next to Long Houchen, his 2 large heads raised. Xiaohua opened his mouth and spat out a fireball. Xiao Guang didn't show any weakness either, shooting out an even faster arrow of light. Because Hao Yue's 2 heads each had their own thoughts, Long Houchen named them according to their attributes: Xiaohua, Xiao Guang. The arrow of light that Xiao Guang shot out was about 1 foot long and extremely fast. Before one of the Luke tribe warriors could react, the arrow had already pierced through his head. He waved his 4 spikes and fell to the ground. Immediately after, there was an explosion. Another Luke tribe warrior tried to use his spikes to block Xiaohua's fireball. He did manage to block it, but he was also sent flying by the fireball's explosive force. There were only 12 enemies in total, and Long Houchen was only facing 4 at the same time. Hao Yue had already dealt with 2, so he naturally didn't feel any pressure. A low chant quickly came from his mouth. He raised the lightsaber in his hand high above his head, and a strange symbol lit up above his head. As if it was contagious, this symbol instantly split and appeared above the heads of the other 4 people. Immediately after, a golden halo rippled from under Long Houchen's feet, and the 5 people within the halo's range were covered in a layer of faint golden light. It wasn't until Long Houchen finished casting these 2 divine spells that the other 2 Luke tribe warriors he was facing reached him. He raised his sword of light, but he also had the radiant shield in his left hand. With 2 bangs, the spikes of the 2 Luke tribe warriors were completely blocked. The golden symbol that appeared above his head was the Guardian Knight's skill, Guardian's Grace. When attacked by an enemy, the Grace of Guardian would immediately erupt with a defensive effect, negating a certain amount of the enemy's attack power. The golden halo caused the nervousness in Long Houchen and the others to turn into determination. This was the halo of faith. Like the Grace of Guardian, It was a support skill of the Guardian Knight. With the release of these two skills, the Sword of Light in Long Houchen's hand had already descended. 2-foot-wide blades of light shot out, easily cutting through the bodies of the two Luke tribe warriors in front of him. Little Light and Little Fire also spat out fireballs and arrows of light, killing the Luke tribe warrior that had been blasted away. The four enemies on Long Houchen's side had all been dealt with. Lin Jialu, who was in the center of the formation, had just finished casting a spell. Since Long Houchen was so young, she naturally had to take care of this side first. However, just as she finished casting her spell, the battle on Long Houchen's side had already ended. Not only that, but he had also cast two group skills to help everyone. Ice Spear. For beams of blue light shot into the sky, then fell down like meteors, turning into 4 2-meter-long ice spears that nailed the 4 Luke tribe warriors to the ground. It seemed like they were dead. Lin Xin and Chun Chen's enemies were also dealt with in the next moment. Chun Si was a shield warrior, so his defense was stronger than his attack. However, with the help of Lin Jialu's ice spear, he also finished the battle. The Luke tribe warrior's direct combat ability was already very weak, barely equivalent to a human second-order warrior. Without the opportunity to launch a sneak attack, how could they be a match for these 4 fourth-order warriors? Looking at the corpses on the ground, everyone let out a collective sigh of relief. These Luke tribe enemies had come too suddenly. Although their combat ability was not very strong, if they had not discovered their sneak attack beforehand, Long Houchen and the others would definitely have paid a heavy price. Little brother Long, thank you, Lin Jialu said to Long Houchen with a pale face. She was a magician, so her defense was weak. If she had not been discovered during a sneak attack, she would have been the one most likely to be killed. The way Chen Si and Chun Chun looked at Long Houchen clearly changed. Although Long Houchen had Hao Yue's help in the battle just now, it should not be forgotten that not only did he discover the enemy at the first moment, he also used a total of 3 divine spells, one more than Lin Jialu, who was a magician. Aura Barrier, Faith Aura, and Blessing of Protection. Although they were all skills that a second-order knight could use, they were very practical. In addition, he had also used Light Severing Sword twice, cleanly killing 2 enemies. The speed at which the skills were chained together made Chun Si and Chun Chen sigh in admiration. Without a doubt, Long Houchen had used his strength to prove that he was also a great knight and not some Lin Xion's follower. A 14-year-old great knight. Just thinking about it, the Chun brothers felt a chill in their hearts. The trademark of a great knight was the ability to release spiritual energy without using any skills. Although Long Houchen did not display this ability, his continuous chaining of skills was enough to prove his strength. Just as everyone was looking at Long Houchen in shock, Long Houchen's expression suddenly changed, and he shouted again, "Careful!" A golden light flashed. It was another aura barrier. However, this time, the aura barrier shattered almost as soon as it appeared. At the same time, everyone could vaguely see a figure appear like lightning beside Lin Jialu. A cold light went straight for Lin Jialu's neck. An invisible attack. Lin Jialu was in the middle of Long Houchen and the other 3. As a magician, she was an important target for protection. However, at this time, as the faintly discernible figure broke through the aura barrier, it had already entered the gap between Chun Chun and Lin Xian. The enemy's speed was too fast, and most of them were still in a daze. Long Houchen was able to react and instantly cast a aura barrier was already the limit of his skills. Whether in terms of distance or speed, it was impossible for him to rescue Lin Jialu. "Jialu!" Lin Xian screamed. However, no matter how anxious she was, it would take time for her to rescue Lin Jialu. There was no way she could make it in time. The cold, sharp blade caused the skin on Lin Jialu's neck to tremble. The moment Long Houchen shouted to be careful, she felt the coldness. Not to mention that she was a great magician. Even a magister would not be able to do anything in this situation. Was death about to come? At this moment, Lin Jialu felt neither sorrow nor joy, only endless unwillingness. It was as if the sharp blade had already cut her throat, and it was as if she felt her soul leaving her body. Dang! A crisp sound rang out, and the figure that rippled like water took 3 steps back before stabilizing itself. What was going on? Whether it was Lin Xian or the Chun brothers, their eyes widened in the next moment of despair, because they saw a completely inconceivable scene. At the same time the aura barrier was released, a soft white light came out from Long Haochen's chest. The light wasn't strong, but the moment the sharp blade touched Lin Jialu's neck, it fell on the invisible figure. What was even more strange was that the figure was suddenly covered in a layer of faint white light, revealing its outline. The sharp blade brushed past Lin Jialu's neck, but it didn't cut her throat. Instead, it stabbed towards Long Haochen. That clang was the sound of Long Haochen using the radiant shield in his hand to block the opponent's attack. Dang, 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 dang. A series of explosive sounds rang out from the radiant shield in Long Haochen's hand. The invisible figure covered in a layer of white light launched a storm of attacks towards Long Haochen, but all of them were firmly blocked by Long Haochen. The radiant shield in Long Haochen's hands was like an insurmountable moat. No matter how crazy the opponent's attacks were, they couldn't get past it. Ah! Lin Jialu was finally able to cry out. There was a slight pain on her neck. It was a wound. The strong feeling of fear made her whole body go limp, and she completely forgot to attack. No matter how outstanding her performance was in the magic branch in Haoyue City, she was still a girl who had never been on the battlefield. The line between life and death almost made her heart collapse. Lin Xian's reaction was still the fastest. Without hesitation, she launched a cross slash towards the invisible figure from behind. The invisible enemy was indeed powerful. His body slightly twisted in the air, and he was able to dodge Lin Xian's attack. But strangely, it was as if he had locked on a Long Haochen, and all of his attacks were focused on Long Haochen. "What are you guys doing? Hurry up and attack!" Lin Xian shouted, awakening the Qin brothers. It also made Lin Jialu, who was still in a state of shock, come to her senses. Haoyue, under Long Haochen's feet, also launched an attack. Fireballs and light arrows bombarded the invisible enemy. At this time, everyone could see that the invisible enemy was completely humanoid. Apart from being invisible, it was no different from a human. It held a transparent blade in each hand. The attacks from both of Haoyue's heads were all destroyed by the sharp blades. Moreover, it was not affected in the slightest. "Whirlwind slash!" Chen shouted. A pair of fire elemental longswords appeared on both sides of his body. His entire body turned into a fiery red vortex, crashing towards the invisible figure. Lin Xian leaped high, and the two swords in her hands joined together, bursting out a cross slash in the air. Chen Si was a shield warrior, better at defense. He had already circled to the side of Long Haochen, trying to help Long Haochen block some of the attacks. However, the invisible enemy would only attack Long Haochen. Faced with the joint attack of everyone, the invisible enemy's body suddenly paused in the air. Then, a circle of dark red light exploded from its body, filled with the smell of blood. Qin Shun was the first to bear the brunt. Whirlwind slash collided with the dark red light. He grunted, and the whirlwind slash stopped, and his whole body fell to the side. At this time, the gap in their cultivation base became apparent. With a loud bang, Lin Xian's sword slashed the dark red light. Although it was also bounced off, the invisible enemy trembled slightly. It was obvious that it was affected by Lin Xian's attack. However, in this short period of time, the pair of sharp blades in the enemy's hands suddenly turned dark red. With the tip of its foot on the ground, its whole body was like a horizontal tornado, with a pair of dark red blades as the tip rushing straight at Long Haochen. There was a harsh tearing sound in the air. If one looked from a distance, they would see that the invisible enemy at this time, looked like a dark red lightning. Long Haochen's expression was solemn, his handsome face expressionless, a pair of clear golden eyes full of calmness, not at all like a 14-year-old boy. Lunging forward, holding the shield, in an instant, Long Haochen's whole body was fixed in place like a rock. Divine block. Clang, In the loud noise, a golden light suddenly blazed on Long Houchen's body, and the invisible enemy was repelled in the air. Long Houchen's right hand, which had not been used for a long time, finally moved. The light sword with a dazzling holy golden light slashed down. The golden light that had just appeared around his body just now was injected into the light sword in this instant. Light's vengeance and light slash. Because its attack was blocked, the invisible enemy only had time to raise a pair of dark red blades to block. With a bang, the invisible enemy was ruthlessly smashed to the ground, letting out a blood-curdling scream. Even the ground was smashed by his body, forming a shallow pit. In the next moment, a ball of light like the sun lit up behind him. A rich golden red light, carrying the power of light and flame, descended from the sky. Glorious sun slash. Ah! A blood-curdling scream sounded, but it only lasted for a moment. The invisible body was cut in half by Lin Xion's glorious sun slash, and dark green blood splattered in all directions. The original invisible body was also revealed. Chen Xi's reaction was very fast. Without hesitation, he immediately approached the pale Lin Jialu, raised the heavy shield in his hand, and emitted a layer of earthy yellow light to protect him and Lin Jialu. "What are you doing?" Lin Xian angrily shouted at Lin Jialu. If Lin Jialu could participate in the attack after Long Houchen blocked the enemy's attack, it would obviously be easier for them to deal with this invisible enemy. Lin Jialu panted heavily, her eyes filled with fear. She gradually recovered from her shock after hearing Lin Xian's scolding. "Sister, forget it." Long Houchen hurriedly pulled Lin Xian back. The crisis might not be resolved just like that. No one knew if there were any more enemies, and internal strife was fatal. Lin Xian turned her head to look at Long Houchen, her eyes sparkling. Without a doubt, if it wasn't for Long Houchen's amazing performance just now, Lin Jialu would already be dead. Although Lin Xian was the one who dealt the last blow, Long Houchen almost blocked all the invisible enemy's attacks. If Zhang Tai didn't have a rock-solid defense and didn't use the revenge of light to injure the opponent with his light-cutting sword, the invisible demon's glorious sun cut might not have been able to kill him given the ability of this invisible demon. Chen Xi said in a deep voice, "We don't have a priest, so we can't use Eye of Truth. If there are still such invisible enemies, it will be too dangerous. What do we do now?" Lin Jialu lowered her head, her eyes filled with shame. In fact, it wasn't that she wasn't outstanding, but everything that happened just now was too sudden. "Brother Long, my heart is already in a mess. It's not suitable for me to continue commanding. You or Lin Xian will command everyone." Lin Xian nodded without hesitation and said, "Long Houchen, you will command." Age was never the standard to measure one's strength. Both times, it was Long Houchen who discovered the enemy at the first moment, which prevented everyone from getting hurt. Although the other four did not know how he did it, they were already convinced by him. Long Houchen didn't decline and said in a deep voice, "The enemy must have used some special method to discover us. They sent this batch of Luke tribe lurkers to attack us, and then the Earth Dragon tribe invisible warrior to launch a sneak attack from the side. There are 20 Luke tribe lurkers and 1 Earth Dragon tribe invisible warrior. We have already killed 21 enemies, for more to complete the mission. This place is too far from the Alliance's border. Since the enemy has a way to discover us, they must know that the people they send have failed and will definitely send more experts to attack us. We will leave this place immediately and slowly retreat in the direction of the Alliance. If there's a chance, we will complete the mission. If not, we will return to the vicinity of the Alliance. We need to protect ourselves first before we can fight better." Chapter 17. Although Long Houchen was young, both Long Xingwu and Yi Hua had instilled him with countless knowledge and experience on the battlefield. Staying calm was his top priority. Protecting himself was more important than defeating the enemy. Lin Jialu's gaze involuntarily fell on the Earth Dragon tribe's concealment expert again. The Ground Dragon was a mid-level unit among the demons. They were good at invisibility, speed, and attack. They didn't look much different from humans, except that their faces were long and narrow, their skin was gray, and their arms were longer than humans. Their attack power was astonishing, especially when they were invisible. It was impossible to defend against them. They were the natural nemesis of magicians. More importantly, their invisibility ability could only be revealed when they were hit by light element skills or the priest's true sight. In every war, there would be a large number of invisible ground dragons who hid and hunted human magicians. Even the most ordinary stealthy ground dragon tribe's strength was equivalent to that of a rank 4 human warrior, if not stronger. As a mid-level unit among the demons, they could improve their abilities through training. This was something the lurkers of the Rook tribe couldn't compare to. "Let's go," Long Houchin said in a low voice. "Maintain the original formation. I'll cover the rear. Sis, don't summon roses. This is our hidden combat power. If the enemy sends troops after us, we'll have one more trump card." "Okay." Lin Xian gripped her swords. After glancing at Lin Jialu, she quickly moved forward. Lin Jialu took a deep breath of the cold dawn air. She forced herself to calm down and cast a levitation spell on herself. Then, she quickly followed behind Lin Xian. The Qin brothers and Long Houchin moved as well. Maintaining the diamond formation, they sped toward the Temple League. As they sped, Long Houchin summarized the battle in his mind. He was able to discover the enemy's tracks first twice because of the perception brought by his mutated spiritual power. Ever since the Knight's Holy Mountain and Hao Yue's blood intertwined, he discovered that not only did his external spiritual energy show signs of continuous growth in the past 6 months, but his senses were also sharper than before. The Earth Dragon had the ability to conceal its presence. Even though he had only sensed it when it was only a short distance away, this was enough to prove how powerful its senses were. Through the exchange, just now, Long Houchin could tell that the Earth Dragon was probably close to the Type 5 realm. More importantly, in the battle just now, Long Houchin had used the power of the spiritual stove for the first time. The instant he discovered the Earth Dragon tribe's stealthy being, he released his spirit light barrier. At the time, he still didn't know who the enemy was, but he was certain that a spirit light barrier of this level wouldn't be able to stop the enemy. Therefore, at the same time as he activated the spiritual light barrier, he activated his Saint spiritual stove for the first time. It was the white light that shot out from his chest. The moment the Saint spiritual stove hit the enemy, Long Houchin clearly felt as if he had locked onto the enemy's soul. Although the power of the spiritual stove didn't have any offensive or defensive capabilities, the Earth Dragon had no choice but to change its target and attack Long Houchin with all its strength. It was also by relying on the Saint spiritual stove's guidance that Lin Jialu's life was saved. Otherwise, with Long Houchin's current cultivation, he wouldn't have been able to save her in time. Under Yi Hua's guidance, Long Houchin had often practiced using the Saint spiritual stove for the past 6 months. Yi Hua had also explained the Saint spiritual stove's mysteries and various uses in detail to him. Now, Long Houchin could use the Saint spiritual stove to a range of about 20 meters. If the enemy exceeded this range, then the effect of the Saint spiritual stove would disappear. Lin Jialu once again released the Eagle Eye technique in the sky. Although the Eagle Eye technique couldn't detect the Luke tribe and the Earth Dragon tribe, the Luke tribe wasn't much of a threat to them. Moreover, the Earth Dragon tribe was considered a rare troop among the demons, so there might not be a second one. Apart from these two, the majority of the demons could still be detected by the Eagle Eye technique. "There's an enemy," Lin Jialu whispered. Everyone's footsteps stopped. Lin Xian asked, "How many?" "One." Lin Xian rolled her eyes. "Just one. What the hell are you yelling for?" Lin Jialu didn't argue with her this time, and said in a low voice, "It's a dark green Zhe Lin tribe dual blade demon. Their speed is very fast, and they're chasing in our direction." Hearing her words, everyone, including Long Houchin, couldn't help but have a change in expression as they sucked in a breath of cold air. The Zhe Lin tribe was the largest tribe of demons, with the largest population. According to the Temple League's investigation, the total population of the Zhe Lin tribe was at least 3 million. Almost every year on the battlefield, there would be hundreds of thousands of Lin tribe dual-blade demons perishing. The ordinary Lin tribe dual-blade demons were the most common troop type among the demons. They weren't mutated from humans, but mutated from a type of demon beast when the 72 demon god pillars descended. At first, there weren't many demons whose strength was equivalent to a grade 2 beginner warrior, but they had a shocking reproductive ability. Over the millennia, their numbers continued to increase, and they gradually became the largest tribe of demons. If it was just an ordinary dual-blade demon, anyone of Long Houchen's group of 5 could handle at least a few dozen without a problem. But the key was in Lin Jialu's description of dark green. An ordinary Lin tribe dual-blade demon's body was black, and its entire body was a carapace. If described in human terms, it could be said that they only had external spiritual energy and no internal spiritual energy. They were close combat demons that relied solely on their physical bodies. When the Lin tribe dual-blade demon's black carapace turned dark green, it meant that they had at least gone through one mutation. It was the king of the Lin tribe. Out of 10,000 dual-blade demons, only one dark green dual-blade demon would appear. The strength of the Lin tribe king was a true grade 5 powerhouse. Its close combat ability was extremely strong. Usually, even a grade 5 warrior couldn't compete with it. The Earth Dragon tribe stealer's strength could be close to grade 5, but it was definitely not grade 5. Whether humans or demons, grade 5 was a dividing line, equivalent to the difference between a knight's great knight and an earth knight. Even if it was a grade 9 great knight and a grade 1 earth knight, there was an insurmountable chasm between them. Without a doubt, this sudden appearance of the dark green dual-blade demon was a powerful force that could wipe them all out. What do we do? Lin Jialu looked at Long Houchen. Long Houchen hesitated for a moment and asked, "Did you find any other demons?" Lin Jialu shook her head and said, "No, there's only this one. Even if the demons discover us, they won't muster such a large force to attack us. A dark green dual-blade demon that's enough to guard a demon god, a goblin stealer, and 20 loop tribe stealers is already a sign that they think highly of us. I estimate that there won't be any more demons reinforcements in the near future." Long Houchen took a deep breath, and his eyes revealed a resolute light. "We can't hide. The dark green dual-blade demon's speed isn't something we can match. We'll be caught sooner or later. Everyone, recover your spiritual energy. Sister, summon Rose, and we'll fight it to the death. As long as we get through this, we'll have a chance to retreat to the Alliance." All right. Lin Xian was like a newborn calf that wasn't afraid of tigers. She immediately summoned Rose and mounted the Rose unicorn's back, immediately increasing her power. Rose was already a top-rank 5 demon beast, only a step away from rank 6. Compared to humans, demon beasts were 1 rank lower. Rose was basically equivalent to a peak Great Knight, a bit stronger than everyone present. With her help, they would naturally be more confident in dealing with the dark green dual-blade demon. Lin Jialu had calmed down quite a bit by now and continued to observe with eagle. We'll be able to see it in 3 minutes at most. Long Houchen made a prompt decision and said, "I'll still be the main defense later. I won't hide it from everyone. Just now, when I attracted the Earth Dragon tribe stealer, I used the power of the spiritual stove, Saint's spiritual stove. I'm sure you've all heard of it. Therefore, after I block the dark green dual-blade demon, you can attack without any qualms before I'm killed. I don't know how long I can resist, so you must use your fastest and strongest attacks to get rid of it." The 5 of them only had 3 professions: knight, warrior, and magician. Moreover, they had never worked together before. When they faced the stealer, it was already somewhat chaotic, so Long Houchen had to make some arrangements. Hearing the words Saint's spiritual stove, everyone's eyes couldn't help but shine, especially Lin Jialu. As the daughter of the consul of Haoyue City, she had a much clearer understanding of spiritual stoves than the Qin brothers. She also immediately understood that it was the Saint's spiritual stove that saved her life. Lin Xian looked at Long Houchen with a shocked face. "You stinking brat. How many things are you hiding from sister?" Long Houchen apologetically said, "I'm sorry, sister. Teacher didn't let me say, Lin Xen smiled. All right, now isn't the time to talk about this. Let's get rid of the dark green dual blade demon first, then I'll deal with you. Chun Si and Chun Chun, the two brothers, glanced at each other, their expressions somewhat stupefied. A 14-year-old great knight, and also possessing a spiritual stove that they didn't even dare to think about. Chun Si said, Long Haochen, I'll help you defend. But if you're alone, I'm afraid. Long Haochen nodded and said, Big brother Chun, use your shield to block from the side to buy me some time. I'll use divine defense block to defend, but every time I block, I'll have to use the borrowed spiritual power before I can use it again. Big brother Chun, you have to help me fight for this moment of time. If we cooperate well, the dark green dual blade demon won't be able to break through our defense before our spiritual power is completely exhausted. Chun Si swallowed a mouthful of saliva. Just now you blocked the Earth Dragon Tribe Stealer's all-out attack with divine defense, right? I didn't dare to confirm it just now, but it turns out it really was. Long Haochen chuckled and winked at him, saying, Big brother Chun, you have to keep this a secret from me. Chun Si gave him an understanding look and stood about 2 meters away from Long Haochen. Although they hadn't cooperated before, everyone was, after all, a well-known figure among the younger generation of Haoyue City. With Long Haochen as the core, it would be much easier for the others to cooperate from the side. Lin Jialu retreated to a place slightly further away, while Lin Xen and Chun Chun stood on either side. The 5 of them quietly waited together. It could be said that it was precisely because Long Haochen possessed the Saint's spiritual stove that they had the opportunity to challenge the dark green dual blade demon. Otherwise, if this kind of 5th-step expert were to attack, apart from Long Haochen using divine defense block, the others might not be able to withstand it. Although this was the first time he had relied on the Saint's spiritual stove to enter a battle, Long Haochen had already deeply experienced the enormous usefulness of this spiritual stove that had no offensive or defensive power in a team battle. He also understood the meaning behind Yi Hua's saying that it was the most suitable spiritual stove to protect the knight. Looking at the lightsaber in his hand, Long Haochen inwardly said, What Dad said was right. Only in a real battle can one quickly increase one's strength. In terms of sturdiness, Long Haochen was far from being able to compare with the 2 brothers Chun Si and Chun Chun. Moreover, he was only 14 years old, but the current him was the cornerstone of the 5 people. Facing a 5th-step expert, he was not afraid. Perhaps, among the 5 of them, he was the only one who had truly tried to go all out against a 5th-step expert. At this time, the sun had already slowly risen from the far east, bringing light to the earth once again. On the distant horizon, under the illumination of the golden sunlight, a dark green figure gradually appeared in the sight of the 5 people. At this moment, Long Haochen slowly closed his eyes and adjusted the circulation of spiritual energy in his chest. The Saint's spiritual stove. It not only stimulated the enemy, but it also stimulated my inner spiritual power. In the battle just now, when he was activating the spiritual stove, his internal spiritual energy recovery speed was at least 20% faster than usual. With regards to this legendary treasure like the spiritual stove, Long Haochen was becoming more and more interested. The dark green figure continued to grow larger in front of everyone. Lin Xen, Lin Jialu, Chun Si, and Chun Chun all simultaneously tightened their grip on the weapons in their hands. This was not the usual training. They were facing a powerful enemy with a cultivation of as high as the 5th step. Failure was not something they could do again, because failure meant death. Finally, they were able to clearly see the appearance of the dark green figure. The dark green dual-bladed demon was about 2 meters tall, and its body was about 3 meters long. Every time its thick and powerful limbs pushed off the ground, its body could rush forward 4 or 5 meters. On its back, there was a pair of not very wide carapace wings. This pair of wings could not allow it to fly, but it could allow its majestic body to maintain balance in the process of rushing forward. Its ferocious head was somewhat like a lizard's, but it was even wider, revealing dense, sharp teeth. The most valiant part was the pair of forelimbs that grew from its shoulders. This pair of forelimbs was at least 1.5 meters long, extremely thick and solid. Compared to its four limbs that were used for running, it could only be considered as supporting the body. The forelimbs were raised in front of its head, and on each forelimb grew 3 sharp blade-like spikes. The outermost sharp spike was the longest, at 1.5 feet. The second spike was about 1 foot, and the third spike was a bit shorter. The 2 thick forearms had a total of 6 sharp blades that shone with a faint green light. These 2 forearms were the dual blades of the dual-bladed demon. If it was an ordinary dual-bladed demon, this pair of forearms would only have the outermost sharp spikes. Its figure would also be much smaller than this dark green dual-bladed demon. Just as the dark green dual-bladed demon approached within 100 meters of the 5, Long Houchin, who had his eyes closed, suddenly opened them. His long eyelashes were slightly raised, and his clear, pale golden eyes were so bright that they could reflect the figure of the dark green dual-bladed demon. In the blink of an eye, his entire body erupted with an intense battle intent. Prepare for battle. For the dark green dual-bladed demon, a distance of 100 meters was nothing more than a few ups and downs. Lowly humans, you actually dare to kill my demon's warriors. Go to hell. The dark green dual-bladed demon spat out the human language, its voice like a great bell. Before it could even finish speaking, its enormous figure had already fiercely rushed over. With a flash of white light, the saint's spiritual stove was activated. Just as the dark green dual-bladed demon entered the 20-meter range, Long Houchin had already locked onto it in a flash. The dark green dual-bladed demon clearly paused for a moment. Then, without the slightest hesitation, it leapt high up in Long Houchin's direction. Under the illumination of the sun, its glossy dark green carapace was like a ball of green light as it fell towards Long Houchin, its enormous forelimbs brazenly chopping down. Boom! The first to collide wasn't with Long Houchin, but with Lin Jialu's magic. 4 long ice lances bombarded the dark green dual-bladed demon's body almost simultaneously. However, what made the 5 people's hearts sink was that after the 4 ice lances bombarded the dark green dual-bladed demon's carapace, it unexpectedly shattered into countless ice crystals and scattered in all directions, only leaving behind a few white marks on its body. Such a strong defense. It was worthy of being the close combat unit with the largest number of demons. The dark green dual-bladed demon didn't know any skills, but its 5th step strength was completely reflected in its body. So how could it not be strong? Clang! The radiant shield in Long Houchin's hand burst with golden light, and the divine defense block forcefully blocked the dark green dual-bladed demon's heavy attack from above. A layer of dense golden light immediately appeared on his body. However, it was also at this moment that Long Houchin's pupils contracted violently. The dark green dual-bladed demon's physical attack was stronger than he had imagined. Long Houchin's current internal spiritual power had already reached more than 1,600 points, and he had the cultivation of a level 8 Great Knight. Given his current cultivation base, even a top-notch Earth Knight wouldn't be able to break the divine defense block without using any skills. This was because even a level 9 Earth Knight wouldn't have a spiritual power exceeding 4,000 points. A Radiance Knight with more than 4,000 points would be considered a Radiance Knight. The divine defense block could at most withstand an impact that was equivalent to 3 times the user's spiritual power. Otherwise, it wouldn't be known as a knight's most unsolvable skill. But even so, in the face of the dark green dual-bladed demon's heavy slash, Long Houchin still had to take 2 steps back before he could stand firm despite the perfect divine defense block. At the same time, he also discovered that the dark green dual-bladed demon's only heavy saber had landed on his radiant shield. At this moment, the difference between a level 5 and a level 4 was completely revealed. Previously, when the Earth Dragon's invisible being was blocked by Long Houchin's divine defense block, there was a moment of delay. However, the dark green dual-bladed demon didn't react at all, and the other heavy saber swept out almost instantly. It stretched toward Long Houchin. Due to the misjudgment of the dark green dual-bladed demon's attack, Qin Shield collision had just been launched and was already too slow. Long Haochen blocked the attack, and his body shook violently. Helpless, he could only raise the light sword in his hand and use the divine defense block to condense Light's vengeance to block the sharp blades on the dark green dual-bladed demon's forelimbs. Bang! In the next instant, Long Haochen's body was blasted away like a cannonball, flying a full 30 feet before crashing to the ground. The tyrannical impact almost instantly ruptured the web between his thumb and index finger, and the light sword was sent flying far away. As soon as he opened his mouth, Long Haochen spat out a mouthful of blood. He was already injured. The divine defense block was not a god, and Long Haochen was not a Radiance Knight who could fully exert the powerful power of the divine defense block. Without truly facing a powerful demons like the dark green dual-bladed demon, he would never be able to understand how terrifying this demon's attack power was. However, Long Haochen's efforts were not in vain. The moment the dark green dual-bladed demon blasted Long Haochen away, Chun Si's heavy shield had also slammed into it. The dark green dual-bladed demon's body tilted slightly from the impact of the shield collision, and Chun Si was also forced to retreat 7 or 8 steps from the recoil of its body before barely standing firm. Lin Xin and Chun Chen's attacks also arrived at this time. Chun Chen's entire body leaped into the air, 2 heavy swords shining with dazzling flames and blazing spiritual energy, fiercely slashing at the dark green dual-bladed demon's body. A warrior's leap, slash, and flame, slash. Without the worry of defense, he wildly erupted the combat power of a berserker. With a bang, the dark green dual-bladed demon's body suddenly staggered from the bombardment, almost falling down. The flame slash also left 2 scorched black marks on its body. At this time, the rose unicorn descended like a red cloud. A fiery red shadow emerged from the rose unicorn's body, unexpectedly transforming into a version of itself in its spiritual power state. Split Shadow Strike, the rose unicorn's innate skill. The dark green dual-bladed demon that had lost its balance was forcibly knocked into the air. Its pair of powerful forelimbs quickly slashed the ground, maintaining its balance. Its entire body slightly curled up and once again bounced up. Its target was Long Haochen. Under the guidance of the Saint's spiritual stove, no matter how strong the opponent's attack was, it must first kill Long Haochen before retaliating. This was the effect of the spiritual stove. At this time, Long Haochen had just stood up from the ground. At this time, a gentle white light fell on Long Haochen's body, the warm spiritual power quickly healing the wound between his thumb and index finger. Under the injection of that warm energy, his internal organs that had been shaken by the shock also felt a lot more comfortable. Healing light. This was released by Xiao Guang in Hao Yue's 2 heads. At the same time, 5 head-sized fireballs bombarded the dark green dual-bladed demon's body. The power of the chain fireballs was not enough to cause any damage to the dark green dual-bladed demon, but still caused its body to pause in the air. At this time, Hao Yue was already at Long Haochen's side, his 4 powerful limbs supporting his body, his 2 heads raised, and he fearlessly stared at the dark green dual-bladed demon that was pouncing over. Charge! Long Haochen did not stay in place to wait for the dark green dual-bladed demon, and in a flash, he made a charging motion to the side. He had a rendezvous with his companions to deal with this guy. In the process of charging, he casually picked up his lightsaber. The dark green dual-bladed demon's body was indeed tough, but under the circumstances of being attacked continuously, it did not affect its speed in the slightest. Its 4 limbs landed on the ground, and its body instantly changed direction, chasing after Long Haochen and pouncing over. Roar! At this time, Hao Yue's 2 heads simultaneously roared at the dark green dual-bladed demon. Speaking of which, it was strange. Previously, when it was surrounded and attacked by everyone, there was no lack of rank 4 skills that fell on its body. But at this time, under the roar of Xiao Guang and Xiao He, the dark green dual-bladed demon unexpectedly fell down. His cold eyes were filled with bewilderment and uncertainty. Taking advantage of the time it paused, Long Haochen had already regrouped with his companions. He gave Chun Si a meaningful glance, and the 2 of them once again stood side by side. After Lin Jialu's ice spear technique had no effect, she stood there and quickly chanted an incantation. This incantation was extremely long, and around the magic staff that she raised high in the air, strange blue runes were rapidly gathering. The water elements around her body were becoming more and more concentrated. Lin Xen rode on the back of the rose unicorn, her face revealing a devout radiance. The two swords in her hands were slanted to both sides, and the dense golden light and the scarlet flame emitted by the rose unicorn were actually rapidly fusing. The two beauties of Haoyue simultaneously chose to accumulate their strength. If they could not seriously injure the dark green dual-bladed demon, no matter how miraculous Long Haochen's Saint's spiritual stove and divine defense were, they would not be able to escape the fate of death in the end. They had already brought out their powerful trump cards. Compared to them, the two brothers, Chun Si and Chun Shun, were clearly a bit lacking. They did not have as many resources and were also the most nervous. Brother Chun, it's still the same as before. You don't need to make a move in advance. Long Haochen's calm voice made Chun Si feel at ease. The halo of faith was released from Long Haochen's body, enveloping all five of them. The dark green dual-bladed demon, who had paused for a moment, once again pounced forward. The valiant dual blades slashed straight at Long Haochen. This time, Long Haochen did not stand still and directly use divine defense. Instead, he took a step toward the dark green dual-bladed demon. Almost exactly the same as before, the dark green dual-bladed demon's blades didn't fall at the same time. When the first blade fell, Long Haochen's footsteps suddenly accelerated, and he dodged to the side. Immediately after, the radiant shield in his left hand tilted, and a white light instantly erupted from it, forming a thick layer of white light on its surface. In an instant, it collided with the first blade of the dark green dual-bladed demon. Sacred Seep Shield, the defensive skill of the Guardian Knight's shield, was an energy shield formed from holy light spiritual energy. Puff! The first blade of the dark green dual-bladed demon actually slashed across the surface of the shield and slashed into the ground. Meanwhile, Long Haochen's body only swayed slightly, but it was only for a moment, and his body stabilized. Once again, he used divine defense that was as solid as a boulder. With a clang, the second blade just happened to hit the radiant shield at this time. Golden light rose, and Long Haochen finally blocked the dark green dual-bladed demon head-on. It's just that the Sacred Seep Shield definitely couldn't block the first attack of the dark green dual-bladed demon. But with the side shield technique that Yihua taught him, he was finally able to block it with difficulty. Raising the sword of light high up, a circle of dazzling, spiky halo blossomed from Long Haochen's body. Guardian Knight's skill, True Shot Halo, increases the effect of all spiritual energy attacks by 10%. With the help of Light's vengeance brought by divine defense, using this skill can save spiritual energy and at the same time increase the effect of the skill. The other four were once again shrouded in the halo of the other halos. This time, Chun Si didn't make any mistakes. The heavy shield slammed into the side of the dark green dual-bladed demon. With the amplification of True Shot Halo, coupled with the all-out impact, the dark green dual-bladed demon was knocked back a meter by this blow. Chun Si himself also grunted, took a few steps back, and fell on his butt. A long sword shining with a dazzling red light flew out from the side like a bolt of lightning. The blazing red light caused the entire sword to turn red. With a puff, it forcibly stabbed into the gap of the dark green dual-bladed demon's carapace from the side by half a foot. The dark green dual-bladed demon cried out in pain. Dual blades wildly swept across. Chun Shun staked everything on a single throw to activate the Skyfire Thorn. This was his strongest attack at the fourth stage, and finally broke through a sliver of the dark green dual-bladed demon's defense through the gap. With Chun Si's help, Long Haochen took a breath, blocked with the glorious shield, and released the sacred Seep Shield again. Puff! The first slash was deflected to the side by the sacred Seep Shield. Long Haochen stood firmly. He wanted to give his companions an accurate target to attack. In order to withstand this blow, he spat out a mouthful of blood again. However, The glorious shield could no longer block in front of him and was brought to the side. The light sword replaced the shield, and he used divine defense again. With a bang, a golden light flashed, and he successfully resisted. Blood flowed out of Long Houchen's mouth and nose. The golden red light, as if it could split the entire world, turned into a long rainbow and fiercely hit the fire sword that had already pierced into the dark green dual-bladed demon's body. Roar! The dark green dual-bladed demon roared wildly, and the fire sword's hilt sank into its body. And the one who launched this attack was Lin Xin. The fusion of light and fire, heavenly flame dance, her fusion technique with the rose unicorn. At this moment, a wisp of dark blue light silently flashed and just happened to enter the dark green dual-bladed demon's open mouth. Poochie! The green light penetrated through the back of its head. Lin Jialu maintained the posture of pointing her magic staff forward, but her face was already pale. This nether ice needle had almost exhausted all her remaining spiritual power. The light sword in Long Houchen's hand brazenly pierced into the ground, and a circle of golden light burst out from his body. Punishment Knight's skill, Rising Heaven Matrix. The golden light rushed out, and the dark green dual-bladed demon that had just raised its dual blades raised its forearms. The radiant shield that was retracted in front of his chest instantly smashed into its chest. It was forcibly knocked back 3 meters. The white healing light once again fell on Long Houchen's body, but Hao Yue had already drilled in between Long Houchen and the dark green dual-bladed demon. A fiery red ring of light emerged from the top of Xiao Hua's head. Ring of Resistance. At the same time, it affected the dark green dual-bladed demon and Long Houchen. The dark green dual-bladed demon was only knocked back a meter, but the heavily injured Long Houchen was knocked back a full 5 meters. Chun Si had already climbed up from the ground and held his heavy shield horizontally in front of Long Houchen. The dark green dual-bladed demon's body seemed to stiffen, and it stood there, its body constantly swaying. As a powerful rank 5 demons, it had an extremely tenacious vitality. Even if the fire sword completely pierced its body, it could not immediately take away its life. However, Lin Jialu's nether ice needle became a fatal blow. When Long Houchen blocked the dark green dual-bladed demon's attack for the second time, Lin Jialu's nether ice needle was already ready, and she used a delayed casting technique to wait for an opportunity. She only had the strength for one attack, and if it did not hit a vital point, she would lose all her fighting strength. The moment Lin Xin heavily injured the dark green dual-bladed demon, the opportunity finally came. The nether ice needle pierced its brain, and even if the dark green dual-bladed demon's body was a bit stronger, it would not be able to survive. Boom! The dark green dual-bladed demon fell to the ground like a mountain of gold or a pillar of jade. His body twitched as dark green blood flowed out from his wounds. Long Houchen used the light sword to support his body and gasped for breath. Even though Xiao Hua had used the healing light on him twice, he had endured almost all of the dark green dual-bladed demon's attacks. The huge power shook his body, and he felt as if his internal organs were on fire. He had already suffered internal injuries. Murmuring a somewhat lengthy incantation, a layer of golden light rippled out from his body, and a golden cross appeared above his head. It was the Holy Light cover. Guardian Knight's rank 4 skill. In the previous battle, Long Houchen did not have the time to use this skill, as the dark green dual-bladed demon's attacks were too crazy. A dense, holy aura seeped into his body through his pores, stimulating Long Houchen's internal spiritual energy, and the burning sensation from the shock to his internal organs faded a bit. Lin Jialu looked at Long Houchen as if he was a monster and said, "You still have internal spiritual energy to use the Holy Light Barrier? Just how much spiritual energy do you have?" In her view, Long Houchen had used so many skills in succession, and even if he had 2,000 internal spiritual energy, he would have been exhausted. But 2,000 internal spiritual energy represented the Earth Knight, and Long Houchen's fighting strength had clearly not reached the Earth Knight realm. Long Houchen forced a smile, and said, I have a few methods to reduce the consumption of spiritual energy when using skills. He naturally would not reveal the secret of his son of light constitution. Lin, Xian, and Chun also came over, and the five gathered together, looking at each other in dismay. Their faces all revealed expressions of lingering fear. To them, this battle was definitely a new lease of life after a disaster. It seemed that among the five, only Long Haochen was injured. But what if they didn't have the saint's spiritual stove? Apart from Long Haochen's divine defense, who else could block the dark green dual-bladed demon's full power attack? Even Lin Xian with the rose unicorn might not be able to block it. Chun usually did not speak much, and it was usually his brother Chen Si who made the decisions. But now he gave Long Haochen a thumbs up. I'm convinced. Long Haochen smiled. Under the nourishment of the holy light barrier, his body was already much more comfortable, but to recover to his peak condition, he would need to rest for at least 3 days. Let's leave this place first. Sister, you take Sister Lin. Let's leave quickly. Be vigilant in times of peace. This was clearly not a place to stay for long. Hao Yue, what are you doing? Long Haochen was just about to tell Hao Yue to hurry up and leave, but he discovered that Hao Yue was lying on top of the dark green twin-bladed demon's body. His two heads were tearing at the dark green twin-bladed demon's carapace, and from time to time, he would burst out with fire and light magic. Pa! Hao Yue's right front claw fiercely slapped the side of the dark green dual-bladed demon's head. Suddenly, a light green crystal-like object jumped out from the dark green dual-bladed demon's already unrecognizable head. Little Light unceremoniously bit it and swallowed it. Chapter 18. That's a magic crystal? Lin Jielu asked in surprise. Lin Xian suddenly said, yes. The magical beasts of the demon race also had magical crystals, and those were grade 5 magical crystals. Hao Yue, you bad boy, you actually ate it. That can be sold for at least 1,000 gold coins. What a spendthrift. Lin Jielu snorted and said, if I had such a partner, I'd be willing to do it no matter how spendthrift. Hearing her words, Chun Si and Chun immediately nodded in agreement. There is no doubt that in the previous battles, Long Haochen was the cornerstone of their small team and played the biggest role. However, the flaw did not obscure the beauty, and Hao Yue's performance was equally amazing, especially its cooperation with Long Haochen. Whether it was the healing, support, or attack, they were all remarkable without a single mistake. What made Lin Jielu and the others most envious was that Hao Yue's two heads had at least used 5 or 6 types of magic. Although they were all low-level magic, but generally speaking, it was already quite good for a magical beast to have 2 or 3 types of magic. Intermediate level 4 Hao Yue had so many magic, and it was even dual type. Even ordinary level 5 magical beasts could not compare to it. Hao Yue ate the magic crystal and ran to Long Haochen's side, whining at him. Light, who had eaten the magic crystal, lowered its head in a very human-like manner, as if a little embarrassed. Long Haochen laughed, squatted down, and hugged them, not caring about the blood on their heads. It's okay, you guys ate it. You guys are the best. Let's go quickly. Lin Xian said, Brother, keep the dark green dual-bladed demon's corpse. It is said that the dark green dual-bladed demon's carapace can be used as medicine and should be able to sell for some money. He knew that Long Haochen had a space ring. Long Haochen nodded and said, okay, I'll keep it first and sell it later and split the money with everyone. I don't want it. Lin Jielu said without hesitation. Chun Si and Chun also nodded. Chun Si said, Haochen, we can't accept this. If it weren't for you, we might not have been able to return alive. Moreover, you were injured in order to protect us. No matter what, this spoil of war should belong to you. Long Haochen stepped forward and stored the dark green dual-bladed demon's corpse into his storage space before turning to the others and saying, Can I kill it alone? He could not. No matter who contributes the most, we are now a team. Let's head back first. Let's go. Lin Xian brought Lin Jielu along as the 5 of them headed toward the Temple League's garrison. After galloping for 20 miles without encountering any pursuers, Lin Exine rode her rose unicorn and sent Lin Jialu over as fast as she could. Then, she returned with 2 horses. She brought the injured Long Haochen and Chun Si with her and finally returned to the Temple League's garrison when the sun was high up in the sky. They were received by a brigade from the garrison. As they were participating in the monster hunters' trials, the brigade leader was very courteous to them and specially gave them a large tent for them to rest in. So far, we have killed 22 demons. We still need 3 more to complete the mission. I'm afraid my injuries will take more than 3 days to heal, Long Haochen said in a deep voice. After surviving a disaster, after relaxing, everyone felt as if their bodies had fallen apart. Including Lin Xian and Lin Jialu, they all leaned against the tent without caring about their image. Hao Yue was curled up at Long Haochen's feet, his head resting on his tail. He was already fast asleep. Only Long Haochen, who had a blood contract with Hao Yue, could vaguely feel a ripple of energy in Hao Yue's body. It seemed that Hao Yue was digesting the dark green dual-bladed demon's demonic crystal. Chun Si said, "Although we are not injured, we will need at least tomorrow to recover to our peak condition. Tomorrow will be the last day. The demons are more difficult to deal with than we thought." Lin Jialu said without hesitation, "I don't recommend that we try to kill the demons again. Especially before we figure out how they found our traces, it's not suitable to act blindly without thinking. Once they discover us again, who knows what kind of powerful existence the demons will send to deal with us." Lin Xian frowned and said, "But our mission is not completed yet." Lin Jialu took a deep breath and said, "I will withdraw. If it wasn't for Long Haochen, I would not have been able to come back alive. Through this battle, I've also deeply realized my own shortcomings. Even if I get a ticket to participate in the Monster Hunters trials, I will not be able to get a good result." Lin Xian was slightly stunned, and the gaze she gave Lin Jialu softened. "None of you need to withdraw. The test has been passed." A slightly aged voice sounded. The curtain was lifted, and an old man holding a magic staff walked in from outside. "Wasn't it the Lord Inspector?" Lin Jialu gave everyone a look and quickly stood up. She said respectfully, "Lord Inspector." The old man waved his hand and said, "All of you take a seat. My name is Feng Yangmu. You can call me Teacher Feng. From now on, I will arrange everything for all of you to participate in the Monster Hunters trials." Compared to the coldness he had shown when they first met, his attitude was clearly much gentler. His gaze lingered on Long Haochen for a long time. Lin Jialu said respectfully, "Teacher Feng, you said that we have passed the test. Is that true?" Feng Yangmu nodded and said, "That's right. All of you have passed the test." The 5 of them looked at each other and revealed expressions of joy at the same time. It was obviously best not to step into the demons' territory. After truly facing the demons, they deeply understood how terrifying the demons were. Long Haochen said hesitantly, "But we only killed 22 demons." Feng Yangmu looked at Long Haochen and smiled. He said, "Numbers don't mean everything. You were able to kill a dark green dual blade demon, so you have already qualified to enter this year's Monster Hunters trials. The test says that each of you has to kill 5 demons, which means they are below grade 4. A grade 4 demons is equivalent to 5. In other words, when you killed the Earth Dragon clan's invisible demon, the task was completed. When the dark green dual blade demon appeared, even I was shocked. However, in order to test your abilities, I didn't attack. I didn't expect you to actually kill it." Chun Si waved her fist. "That's great. This time, we can all participate in the Temple League trials." Feng Yangmu nodded and said, "Yes. You have passed the test, and, at the same time, you have the right to know some things about the Monster Hunters. Listen carefully to what I'm going to say next. It will definitely be helpful for you to participate in the Monster Hunters trials." Everyone was shocked. They sat up straight and listened attentively to Feng Yangmu's explanation. The Monster Hunters trials are held once every 5 years. Every medium-sized city and above will send an inspector to be in charge of the test and evaluation. They will also lead the people who pass the test to participate in the trials. After arriving at the Temple League, you will be sent to your respective temple to participate in the preliminary trials. There are a total of 127 medium-sized cities and above in the Temple League. Almost every city will send their most outstanding youths to participate in the trials. Therefore, the competition in the preliminary trials held in your respective temple is extremely cruel. This is especially true for the Knights Templars, the Warrior Temple, and the Magic Temple, as these three temples have the most participants. In comparison, the other three temples have much fewer participants, especially the Soul Temple. They only need to go through 1 or 2 elimination rounds to qualify. At the end of the preliminary trials, the 6 temples will each select 10 strongest people to participate in the finals. Anyone who can pass the preliminary trials can already become a member of the new Monster Hunters trials. The main purpose of the finals is to determine the rankings so that the demon hunting roulette can be matched and rewarded. The 60 people participating in the finals will draw lots to compete. Therefore, luck is very important in the finals. If an assassin draws a spellcaster, it will be extremely lucky, just like if a knight draws an assassin. In the end, the 60 participants will be ranked, and the higher they are ranked, the more generous the rewards they will receive. The top 3 participants will also be able to choose a teammate who isn't in the top 3 before the demon hunting wheel matches. Hearing this, Lin Xian couldn't help but ask, "Teacher Feng, what does this demon hunting roulette match refer to?" Feng Yangmu smiled and said, "The Monster Hunters trials, as the name suggests, will select the young powerhouses to form the Monster Hunters. Each Monster Hunters will be formed by one powerhouse from each of the 6 temples. 6 people will form one Monster Hunter. There will be 60 people participating in the finals. How will they be distributed? At this time, the demon hunting roulette will be used to make the selection and let the heavens decide the team. In the end, 10 Monster Hunters will be formed. After the Monster Hunters are formed, there will be another competition to decide the best Monster Hunters of the competition. The team will be rewarded again." Long Haochen said, "Teacher Feng, what exactly are the Monster Hunters doing? Since the Alliance made the Monster Hunters trials so grand, there must be a very important meaning." Feng Yangmu said without hesitation, "Of course. The Monster Hunters can be said to be the Temple League's most important force in fighting against the demons. The Temple League will issue all kinds of missions for the Monster Hunters, almost all of which are targeted at the demons. A powerful Monster Hunters can sometimes pose a greater threat to the demons than an army of thousands. They can even hunt down demon gods. Currently, there are more than 100 active Monster Hunters. They're the mainstay of the Alliance against the demons. I won't say much about what kind of missions the Monster Hunters carry out. If you're lucky enough to become one of them, you'll naturally know. I will only talk about the rewards for now. You should all know that apart from the various skills that can be learned daily in the 6 temples, there are also some exclusive secret skills. For example, the Knights Templars' Divine Defense. At this point, he deliberately looked at Long Haochen. These secret skills are usually not available to members of the temple. It is the same even when one's cultivation has reached a certain level. There are only 2 ways to learn them. One is through inheritance. Those powerhouses who have made great contributions to the Alliance can obtain an inheritance ring and pass on some secret skills to their heirs. The other method was to use merit points to exchange for it. By completing missions, the Monster Hunters can exchange for almost all the reserves of the Alliance. This includes all kinds of powerful equipment, secret skills, and so on. Long Haochen's heart skipped a beat. His gaze fell on the black ring that his father had left him. Inheritance ring, this should be it. No wonder Father wasn't afraid of people doubting me for having a skill like Divine Defense. It seemed that all inheritance rings looked the same. However, the ring on his hand was his biggest secret. This was because, in the ring, all the Punishment Knight's skills were sealed, including all the secret skills, and even Long Xingwu's self-created skills. Long Haochen had never given up on the training of Punishment Knight. As a Guardian Knight, he was the core of the team. He had done very well against the dark green dual saber demons. However, if he hadn't hidden his abilities as a Punishment Knight and used 2 swords to face the dark green dual saber demons, even if it was a one-on-one situation, he wouldn't be certain of victory. However, He had a 60% chance of winning against the rank 5 dark green dual saber demons. Seeing the 5 use blank expressions, Feng Yangmu smiled indifferently and said, "Don't you feel that obtaining achievement points is a bit too far away? Then I'll talk about the rewards of the Monster Hunter's trials. Just one should be enough to attract all of you. The reward for the top 3 in the finals of the trials is Spiritual Stove." "Ah!" Including Long Haochen, the 5 of them cried out in surprise. What did a Spiritual Stove mean? It was obvious just by looking at how Long Haochen used the Saint's Spiritual Stove to lead everyone to kill the dark green dual saber demons. And the Saint's Spiritual Stove was only ranked 34th among the 36 kinds of spiritual stoves that the knight could use. Regardless of the profession, as long as one had a spiritual stove, then it was equivalent to opening the door to becoming a powerhouse. This treasure that could seize the fortune of the heavens and earth was enough to change a person's life. Feng Yangmu felt the 5 people's breathing become much heavier. He smiled and said, "To everyone, the opportunity is equal. You guys have to work hard." His words of encouragement had an obvious effect. The 5 youths in front of him seemed to have forgotten about their fatigue, and their eyes were filled with fighting spirit. Feng Yangmu sighed in his heart. Wanting to obtain the top 3 in the trials was easier said than done. Even if it was this youth who had the Saint's Spiritual Stove and Divine Defense, it wasn't possible. However, this youth should be able to enter the finals. As for the others, I'm afraid. "Teacher Feng, I have a question to ask you," Long Haochen respectfully said to Feng Yangmu. Feng Yangmu said, "Ask away." Long Haochen said, "Previously, we took advantage of the night to enter the demon's territory and were extremely careful. How did the demons discover us? Even the strongest eagle-eye technique can't see what's happening 100 miles away." Feng Yangmu smiled. "This is because you guys don't have experience fighting against the demons. Demons have a type of existence called shadow demons. Their stealth ability is even stronger than the Earth Dragon tribe's stealth ability, but they don't have any attack or defense abilities. They become shadows in the darkness. They are specifically responsible for the demon's reconnaissance. Only priests of the 4th rank and above can discover them. You guys must have been targeted by the shadow demons, which is why you were ambushed by the demons. Fortunately, you guys reacted well enough." After saying this, Feng Yangmu stood up and said, "All right, you guys have a good rest. Tomorrow morning, we will be on our way to the Temple League to participate in the competition." After sending Feng Yangmu away, everyone once again fell to the ground. Just as the 2 brothers, Chun Si and Chun Shun, were about to fall asleep, they were pulled up by Long Haochen. "We can't sleep. Meditating after a big battle can not only allow us to reflect on what happened in the battle and increase our combat experience. At the same time, it is also the best time to strengthen ourselves and increase our internal and external spiritual power. Sleeping at this time is equivalent to wasting our lives." Lin Xi nodded and said, "Haochen is right. If he can persevere even when he is injured, why can't we?" Thus, the exhausted 5 people all chose to meditate to relieve their fatigue. The night passed uneventfully. Early the next morning, Long Haochen was the first to gradually wake up from his meditation. His internal organs were still slightly aching. The dark green dual-bladed demon's attack yesterday was really too strong. A full frontal attack definitely exceeded 3,500 spiritual power points. Even with the healing from the Holy Light Shield, his internal injuries still needed a period of time to recover. It was not impossible to purely rely on light magic to heal, but if that was the case, it would affect his own self-healing ability. The gains did not make up for the losses. However, although his injuries had not healed, Long Haochen was pleasantly surprised to find that his internal and external spiritual power had improved by quite a bit. He was now a level 8 Great Knight, and his internal and external spiritual power added up to more than 1,600 points. Of that, his external spiritual power was at least 240 points. And after yesterday's hard battle, first of all, his external spiritual power had increased by about 10 points, and his internal spiritual power had increased by 20 points. He was one step closer to becoming a level 9 Great Knight. Facing the threat of life and death was the best way to stimulate one's potential. Furthermore, Long Houchin had practically withstood all the attacks from the Ground Dragon clan's Prowler and the Sweeling clan's Dark Green Dual-Bladed Demon. Naturally, his spiritual power had increased the most. Of course, this increase was just Long Houchin's own estimation. Unless it was a breakthrough, it was impossible to determine one's own spiritual power-specific data just by feeling it. The other four woke up one after another. After waking up, their eyes were filled with joy. Clearly, they had also felt their own cultivation increase. Washing up breakfast. Just as the five of them finished tidying up, Feng Yang Mu appeared in front of them again. Let's go. Just like when you completed the trial mission previously, I will be by your side. After saying this, in a flash of green light, Feng Yang Mu disappeared. Lin Xen stuck out her tongue and said in a low voice, "This teacher Feng has the cultivation of a level 6 archmage, right?" After yesterday's bitter battle, the relationship between Lin Jialu and Lin Xen had clearly eased up a little. Lin Jialu nodded slightly and said, "Teacher Feng is a level 4 archmage of the 6th level and a deacon of our magic sanctuary." After the five of them thanked the garrison that had taken care of them, they mounted their horses and set off. Lin Jialu naturally still rode the Rose Unicorn with Lin Xen and sped towards the northwest where the core of the Temple League was located. This was a palace that was entirely dark gold in color. It was about 15 feet tall and circular in shape. There wasn't a single window here, but it was illuminated by a special kind of gloomy darkness. It was a smear of dark blue. To be precise, it was layers of dark blue halos. On the ground, the dark gold lines formed a crisscrossing six-pointed star. Countless runes extended from the six-pointed star to the entire palace. Be it the ground, the walls, or the ceiling, they were all covered with these runes that seemed to be filled with mystery. If Long Houchin could come here, he would definitely recognize that these runes were very similar to the ones he had seen at the teleportation portal on the Knight's Holy Mountain. They were the ancient Elven language. However, the ancient Elven language here was shining with the dark blue color that lit up the palace. It was not of the dark attribute, but it was filled with a gloomy and murderous aura. It was completely different from the ancient Elven language aura at the teleportation portal on the Knight's Holy Mountain. The dark blue runes were filled with a restraining aura, as if they were sealing something. In the middle of the palace, above the center of the six-pointed star, a short sword floated quietly. It was a pitch-black short sword that did not emit any luster. If it were not for the dark blue light surrounding it, it would seem as if it did not exist. There weren't any spiritual energy fluctuations, but it was that extremely deep black that seemed to be ruling over everything here. The dark blue runes seemed to be worshipping it from the very beginning. Below the pitch-black short sword, in the center of the six-pointed star, sat a person. It was a young girl. She was sitting cross-legged, and her long purple hair draped over her shoulders. There seemed to be a faint layer of dark blue halo covering her. Her skin was very fair, to the point that it was unhealthy. Her exquisite facial features were like a gift from the gods. Her slightly immature body did not emit any youthful aura. That was because she did not look like a living person at all. She looked more like a statue. Her eyes were open, but her pupils were completely grayish white. Such a stunning appearance, but the window to one's soul was closed. It was enough to make anyone who loved beauty sigh. "It's time to go." A cold voice rang out from all directions in the palace. "Okay." A light snort came from the beautiful girl's jade-like nose. She slowly stood up and raised her head towards the black short sword in the air. A dim light flashed, and the black short sword hovering in the air descended from the sky. It pierced straight through her forehead and disappeared without a trace. In the next instant, all the ancient elven runes in the hall dimmed and lost their dark blue luster. 10 days later, Imei City. It was one of the most flourishing cities in the Temple League. Because it was located inland, this huge city had not experienced the baptism of war. Its prosperity was second only to the holy city where the Temple League was located. It was only 800 miles from Imei City to the Holy City. It could be reached in 2 days on a fast horse. Long Houchen's group of 5 had arrived at this flourishing city early in the morning. Compared to this place, Haiyu City seemed to be as small as a street block. However, the 10 days of travel had exhausted Long Houchen's group of 5, and they were not in the mood to enjoy the scenery. They found a hotel to stay in, ate a good meal, and then returned to their respective rooms to take a hot bath. There was no better way to relax than this. There were still 4 days until the deadline for the Monster Hunters trials. Therefore, they decided to rest in Imei City for a day and continue their journey the next morning. After a day of rest, everyone felt a lot more comfortable. Long Houchen was meditating in his room when someone knocked on the door. "Houchen, come with sister for a stroll." Lin Xian's voice came. Circulating the spiritual power in his body, Long Houchen slowly got up. Coming. Along with the advancement of his cultivation, the spiritual power in his body had become quite pure. The pale, golden halo with the saint's spiritual furnace in his chest as the core for cultivation gradually showed signs of compression and solidification. When his spiritual power could condense into a liquid state, it meant that he would enter the realm of Earth Night. It seemed that there was only a difference of 300 spiritual power, but in reality, the dividing line of the 5th step was not that easy to break through. "Sister, what are we going to do?" Long Houchen opened the door. Lin Xian, who had changed into casual clothes, was leaning against the door, looking at him with a sweet smile. Lin Xian pulled his arm and said, "Don't ask, just come with me." "How you at? You look after the house. In a moment, sister will buy some dried fish for you to eat." While speaking, she directly pulled Long Houchen out of the room. Xiao Guang and Xiao Hui swallowed a mouthful of saliva, jumped on the bed without a trace of politeness, and went back to sleep. Ever since eating that magic crystal, the amount of time it slept every day increased by a lot. It was only in the last few days that it got a little better. Walking to the entrance of the hotel, Long Houchen was surprised to find that Lin Jialu was already waiting there. Seeing him, she faintly smiled and said, "Let's go." "Two sisters, what are we going to do?" Long Houchen asked doubtfully. He could see that Lin Xian and Lin Jialu should have a goal. Lin Jialu covered her mouth and chuckled, saying, "Haven't you always wanted to sell the dark green dual-bladed demon's corpse? This Imei City has a very large auction house, and the dark green dual-bladed demon's corpse can barely be auctioned. Let's sell it for some money. Sister also wants to buy something." "Oh." Long Houchen somewhat disapprovingly agreed. In his heart, it was obvious that cultivation was more important. Lin Jialu smiled and said, "Little guy, don't be dissatisfied. The auction house is a place you will definitely visit frequently in the future. We can find almost everything we want there. Of course, that is if you can pay the price. If you can become a member of the Monster Hunters in the future, you will definitely have dealings with the auction house. Let's go take a look first so that we can find the door in the future." Lin Xian nodded and agreed. She's right. The auction house has the most good things. The largest auction house in our Temple League is the Sanctuary Alliance Auction House established by the 6 major temples. Only the top 10 main cities have them. This Imei City is one of them. It will only be beneficial for you to take a look. In the future, no matter if you want to sell or buy, the Sanctuary Alliance Auction House is the most suitable place. Long Houchen said, "Then why don't you ask the 2 big brothers Chun to go with you?" Lin Jialu said, "They don't buy or sell things, so there's no need to go. Let's go quickly. I've asked, and there's an auction tonight." The biggest city that Long Houchen had been to in the past was Haiyu City. Moreover, ever since he met his father, he spent most of his time cultivating and rarely came into contact with the outside world. He was only 14 years old, so he naturally had a curious heart towards new things. Moreover, both Long Xingwu and Yi Hua had told him that a person's strength could be strengthened by external objects. The most obvious ones were weapons, equipment, and elixirs. It would be good to take a look. Imei City's Sanctuary Alliance Auction House was located in the busiest area in the city center. From afar, a huge white oval building could be seen standing there. This huge oval building was at least 60 meters tall. The dome seemed to be made of special metal, and it emitted a faint halo under the afterglow of the setting sun. It's too big. Long Houchin looked at the huge building in front of him in a daze. The outer walls of the auction house gave people the feeling that it was a city wall, and he couldn't see the end of it at a glance. Lin Jialu smiled and said, "This Sanctuary Alliance auction house in Imei City isn't the biggest. The biggest one in the Holy City is twice as big as this place, and it can accommodate 20,000 people to participate in the auction at the same time. I reckon that this place can only accommodate around 10,000 people." Long Houchin said in shock, "With so many people bidding at the same time, wouldn't the price be raised to the sky?" Lin Jialu shook her head and said, "That won't happen. The items being auctioned are already expensive, and no one will waste money unless they urgently need the item. The most powerful thing about the Sanctuary Alliance auction house is that they don't take any commission. Because it's large enough, they only need to rely on the tickets to make a lot of money. Ordinary tickets are 1 gold coin each, and the further you sit, the higher the price. It's said that the innermost box near the center of the auction house costs 1,000 gold coins for one use." Lin Xin bought the tickets, received 3 number plates, and walked back. She handed a number plate to Long Houchin and Lin Jialu respectively, and said, "Let's go in. Long Houchin, let's send the dark green dual-bladed demon's corpse for appraisal first. It should be auctioned today." After walking into the Sanctuary Alliance auction house, the first thing they saw was a hall with a passage in the center that led to the auction house. On both sides of the hall were tall counters, and there were at least 10 guards on each side. Apart from warriors, there were also guards dressed in magician attire. Through Lin Jialu's introduction, Long Houchin learned that the counters on both sides were for appraisal and to collect the auction money. There were a total of 8 such passages in this Sanctuary Alliance auction house. They were in 8 different directions to facilitate the flow of people. The Sanctuary Alliance auction house would hold auctions every day, so it was a very lively place every night. Some of the richer people even regarded participating in the auction as a way to relax. After all, they could see a lot of good things here. It was also very beneficial to increase their knowledge. Lin Xin brought Long Houchin to the counter on the left for appraisal of items. There weren't many people queuing here, so it was their turn soon. "Hello, I want to auction the corpse of a demon's demon," Long Houchin said to the middle-aged man behind the counter. The middle-aged man looked up at him and pressed somewhere. The wall on one side of the counter slowly fell down, forming a 3-meter wide platform. "Put it up," the middle-aged man said lightly. "Thank you." Long Houchin injected his spiritual power into the forget-me-not ring, and a faint blue halo shone around the ring. The forget-me-not pattern on it seemed to come to life, and a ball of green light shot out from the ring, falling on the platform and rapidly growing. "Huh." The middle-aged man behind the counter was surprised. "Dark green dual-bladed demon. This is rare." As he spoke, he had already stood up and came to the side of the dark green dual-bladed demon's corpse to carefully examine it. After a moment, the middle-aged man frowned slightly. "Unfortunately, there are no magic crystals, or the price would at least double. In this situation, the starting price can only be set at 800 gold coins, but with the rarity of the dark green dual-bladed demon, it can be guaranteed that there won't be an unsold auction." The middle-aged man took out a black number plate and handed it to Long Houchin. There was a magic crystal of the same color inlaid in the center of the plate, and a number 126 on the back. "After the auction, please use this as proof to collect the gold coins from the opposite side. Be careful not to lose it. It only recognizes the plate and not the person." The starting price was 800 gold coins, so everyone could get at least 100 gold coins. In the eyes of Long Houchin, this was a large sum of money. At least there was money for Hao Yue to buy dried fish. That guy's appetite was getting bigger and bigger, and he really wanted to eat Long Houchin until he was poor. Wait a moment. Just as the middle-aged man was about to put away the dark green dual-bladed demon's corpse, a hurried voice suddenly sounded from behind Long Houchin and the others. Then, a person quickly walked over. "Don't put it away yet. I want to buy this thing directly." Long Houchin looked at the person in surprise. It was a young man who didn't look much older than Long Houchin, no more than 20 years old at most. He was about half a head taller than Long Houchin, and had a head of long, dark green hair that hung down his back all the way to his waist. His skin was a sparkling, milky white, and his handsome features were actually comparable to Long Houchin's. But with that waist-length hair, he looked even more like a girl than Long Houchin. Luckily, his Adam's apple was still obvious. The white magic robe he wore complemented his slightly slender figure, very much in line with the figure of a magician. It was just that he didn't have a magic staff in his hand. The most peculiar thing was this person's eyes. His light green eyes always carried a hint of a mischievous smile, but it was very easy to give people a feeling of familiarity. At this moment, he was looking down at the dark green dual-bladed demon. Looking at such a ferocious magical beast, this young magician actually had a somewhat intoxicated expression on his face, and even used his hand to gently stroke the dark green dual-bladed demon's carapace. Good stuff, really good stuff. I want it, brother, name a price. As he spoke, he straightened his back and looked Long Houchin in the eye. Seeing Long Houchin's appearance clearly, this young man with dark green hair couldn't help but be stunned, and a strange splendor of surprise flashed in his eyes. He murmured, "There's actually someone more handsome than me in this world? That's impossible." Uffed. Lin Xn stood to the side and couldn't help but laugh out loud. This young man was very handsome, but his personality was completely different from Long Houchin's. Just as narcissism alone was far beyond Long Houchin's. Long Houchin's face stiffened, and he said, "I've already entrusted it to the Sanctuary Alliance's auction. I'm afraid I can't sell it to you." The young man continued to look Long Houchin up and down a few times, and a trace of jealousy actually appeared in his eyes. "Impossible. This is impossible. How can he be more handsome than me?" As he spoke, he even used his hands to play with his dark green hair. Chapter 19. Long Houchin frowned, and no longer paid attention to the long-haired youth. He turned to Lin Xin and Lin Jialu and said, "Sisters, let's go." Hey, don't go. I really want to buy it. I'll pay 2,000 gold coins. How about it?" The youth didn't have time to lament and hurriedly said. Hearing this number, Long Houchin couldn't help but stop. It would be a lie to say that he wasn't tempted. 2,000 gold coins was much higher than the starting bid. There might not be such a price tag in the auction house. The middle-aged man in charge of the auction house couldn't take it anymore and said to the long-haired youth in a deep voice, "Don't disturb the order here. Leave quickly." The long-haired youth curled his lips and took out a black card from his bosom and handed it over. "Big brother, you're new here, right? You don't even recognize this master." The middle-aged man, who was impatient just a moment ago, immediately stiffened when he saw the black card. He carefully took the card in his hand and looked it up and down a few times before respectfully handing it back to the long-haired youth. "Esteemed guest, you have the right to bid in advance for the goods as long as the seller agrees." The long-haired youth proudly took back the card and turned to Long Houchin. "How about it, brother? You see, I didn't violate the rules of the auction house. Sell it to me. 2,000 gold coins isn't a low price. I need some parts of this dark green dual-bladed demon to make medicine." Lin Jialu blurted out in surprise, "You're a potion apothecary?" The long-haired youth's face darkened. "Who said I'm a potion apothecary? I'm a magician, a very, very powerful magician. Making medicine is just my hobby. Let me tell you, this master is going to participate in the Monster Hunters trial soon. Have you heard of the Monster Hunters? That's on the sharp knives of our 6 great temples." Long Houchin didn't seem to hear him. He pointed at the dark green dual-bladed demon and said, 2,000 gold coins. I'll sell it to you." He had always liked peace and quiet. He didn't have a good impression of this talkative and somewhat narcissistic guy. Okay, take out your magic crystal card. I'll transfer the money to you." As he spoke, he waved his left hand. A red light flashed, and the dark green dual-bladed demon disappeared in an instant. Long Houchin looked at him in surprise. It was obvious that the young man in front of him also had a magical storage equipment. "I don't have a magic crystal card," he said, shaking his head. "I'll just apply for one. It can be done here. Opposite. Let's go. I'll take you there." The young man pointed at the counter opposite him. As he spoke, he enthusiastically put his arm around Long Houchin's shoulder. Long Houchin shook his shoulders slightly and shook off his hand. The long-haired youth didn't mind. He chuckled and said, "Don't be so polite. Look, we're both so handsome, and we're in the prime of our lives. We should be more intimate. My name is Lin Xin. What's your name?" "Long Houchin." Good name, good name." Lin Xin laughed and brought Long Houchin to the opposite side to apply for a magic crystal card. Lin Jialu looked at Lin Xin and said doubtfully, "This guy can't be a swindler, right?" Lin Xin said in a low voice, "Just keep an eye on him. He's a magician. How can he escape?" The middle-aged man behind the counter rolled his eyes and said, "Ladies, you don't have to worry about this at all. The black card that the young master took out just now is the highest level of our Sanctuary Alliance Auction House's Black Envoy VIP card. This kind of VIP card can't be purchased and can only be obtained by giving it away. Those who have this card can enjoy a 10% discount on anything they buy in our auction house. The difference in price will be made up by our auction house. Also, you can overdraft an amount of up to 100,000 gold coins at any Sanctuary Alliance auction house." The two women gasped, and their faces changed instantly. With their background, they had never even heard that the Sanctuary Alliance auction house actually had this level of VIP card. Applying for a magic crystal card was more troublesome than Long Houchin had imagined. Moreover, he had to pay a 100 gold coin processing fee. How could Long Houchin have so much money? Lin Xin took out his Black Envoy card again and waved it, and it was actually free. The magic crystal card was only the size of half a palm, and there were 4 gems on it. When applying for the card, it needed to be infused with spiritual power. Therefore, only third-grade professionals and above could apply for it. Everyone's spiritual power had its own characteristics. When using the magic crystal card, it also needed to be infused with spiritual power. Therefore, there was no need to worry about losing it or being stolen. The transfer was even simpler. There was an area in the center of the magic crystal card. Using a needle-shaped stick on a magic crystal card, the amount was written on it. Then, both parties infused their spiritual power, and the 2 magic crystal cards were connected. The transfer was successful. After about half an instance's time, Long Houchin's magic crystal card had an additional 2,000 gold coins. "Done, let's pack up." Lin Xin took back the magic crystal card and patted Long Houchin's shoulder. He said, "Brother, you're going to participate in the auction, right? It's better to meet by chance than to invite. Let's go in together. If you follow me, you can buy things at a discount." After receiving 2,000 gold coins, Long Houchin was in a good mood. He nodded and said, "Then let's go together." After calling Lin Xin and Lin Jialu, the 4 of them walked into the auction house. After entering the Sanctuary Alliance auction house, Long Houchin was immediately shocked by the scene in front of him. Inside the auction house, there was a circle of seats. Every 5 rows of seats had a different color. According to Lin Jialu, the seats with different colors had different ticket prices. The further in, the higher the price. At the front, and also at the bottom, there was a circle of enclosed boxes. In the middle of the auction house, there was a circular platform, which was obviously used to display the auction items. As soon as they entered the auction house, Long Houchin immediately felt a strong magical element blowing towards him. Obviously, there were many magical devices here. "Our tickets are at the back," Long Houchin said to Lin Xin, who was walking to the front, after taking a look at the number plate that Lin Xin gave him. Lin Xin stopped and said, "It's okay. There's a box in front of me. Since I'm the only one here, it is very spacious inside. Let's go together." Long Houchin was still a little hesitant, but Lin Jialu nudged him from behind, hinting for him to agree. Lin Xin and Lin Jialu were also very curious about this long-haired young man. One had to know that potion pharmacists were extremely rare, and their status was much higher than mages. Although this guy did not admit that he was a potion pharmacist, he did say that he had a hobby in this area. Moreover, he had a black messenger card. It was not a bad thing to make friends with such a person. All right, Long Houchin could only agree. Under Lin Xion's lead, they walked down the stairs diagonally and arrived at the front of the box area. At this place, there was a special female attendant to serve them. These female attendants were all slender, beautiful, and wore long silver dresses. "Master Lin, you are here." Seeing them coming down, a female attendant hurriedly walked in front of Lin Xian and greeted him with a smile. His eyes were filled with undisguised adoration and adoration. Lin Xian said arrogantly, "Xiao Nuo, these are my friends. Bring us over." "Yes." When the young lady's gaze swept past Long Haochen's face, she revealed a little surprise. Lin Xian's appearance was already one of the most outstanding among the men, but compared to Long Haochen, there was still a gap. When the two of them stood together, Lin Xian was immediately outshone. However, these female attendants were obviously of high quality. Their gaze lingered for a moment, then they brought the four of them along the red carpeted path towards the box area. Lin Xian's box was number 6. The position was very good, facing the auction stage. The female attendant, whom he called Xiaona, opened the door and let them in. The box area was at least 100 square meters. The floor was covered with a thick light brown carpet, which was very soft and comfortable to step on. The decoration of the box was very elegant, with some green plants placed on both sides. In the middle was a large white, semicircular leather sofa. Even if more than 10 people sat on it, it would not feel crowded. The front was a wide, transparent crystal glass, which could clearly see the auction stage in front. There were all sorts of fruits and desserts on the coffee table in front of the sofa. Lin Xian said, "Brother Long, 2 beautiful ladies, please take a seat, please take a seat." "Xiao Nuo, bring 2 bottles of sweet red demons." "Okay, coming right away." Xiao Nuo smiled sweetly at him, closed the door, and walked out. Lin Xian sat beside Long Haochen and said, "Brother Long, do you have any other magical beasts for sale? Dead or alive?" Magical beasts like the dark green dual-bladed demons are really hard to find nowadays. "You have solved my urgent problem this time." Long Haochen shook his head and said, "I only have this one demon that I can sell. What can the body of the dark green dual-bladed demons be used for?" He was also very curious about potioneers. Lin Xian chuckled and said, "Look." With a flash of red light, a crystal bottle appeared in his hand. Through the bottle, one could see that there were 3 scarlet red pills inside. "This is the vigor pill I made. One of the main ingredients is the powder ground from the carapace of the dark green dual-bladed demons. This is good stuff." Long Haochen was stunned. Vigor pill? What is it used for? Can it strengthen external spiritual energy? Lin Xian shook his head mysteriously and said, "You will know in a moment. The auction is starting. Watch the auction first." Xiao Nuo walked into the box again and put down the 2 bottles of red fruit wine. She poured a cup for everyone and left quietly. This was obviously the sweet red demon that Lin Xian mentioned. "Try it. This thing is not bad. It is a specialty of a small town in the south." Lin Xian took a sip from his cup and turned his gaze to the auction stage outside. Long Haochen also picked up a glass and took a sip. When it first entered his mouth, he felt a slight sourness on the tip of his tongue, but very quickly, the rich fruity aroma filled his mouth. Even his breath was mixed with this aroma. The warm feeling slid into his stomach, making his body feel warm and indescribable. Lin Xian and Lin Jialu sat at the side and watched Lin Xian and Long Haochen converse. Then, they tasted the sweet red demon. The shock in their eyes became more intense. Long Haochen had never seen this fruit wine before, but they had. Lin Jialu's father had a bottle and treated it like a treasure. He could not bear to drink it. It was said that this sweet red demon was made from a type of grape called rose dew. It was processed through 99 processes. There were only 20 bottles produced every year. Yet, Lin Xian actually used this to treat them. One had to know that a cup of sweet red demon in their hands was worth more than the dark green dual saber demon that Long Haochen had just sold. This guy was too rich. On the auction stage, a beautiful auctioneer had already walked up. At this moment, at least 50% of the seats were occupied. The female auctioneer was wearing a rose-red floor-length dress. She was tall and voluptuous. Her long black hair was tied up. She was beautiful and experienced. She walked to the center of the auction stage and raised her arms to the sides. She bowed slightly and said in a gentle and pleasant voice, Welcome to Amay City's Sanctuary Alliance Auction House. I am Xuan. It is my pleasure to serve all of you. Cheers and whistles could be heard. Clearly, this female auctioneer was very popular. Next, please bring out our first auction item. The female auctioneer did not say too many sensational words. After bowing to the cheering bidders, she went straight to the main topic. Sitting beside Long Haochen, Lin Xian's eyes were filled with peach blossoms. Sister Xuan is still so beautiful. She really has class. If I wasn't only 18 years old, I would definitely try to woo her. Brother Long, what do you think of her? Isn't she beautiful? Long Haochen nodded his head shyly. A female attendant who was wearing the same outfit as Xiao Nuo pushed an exquisite golden cart onto the stage from the side. The cart was covered with a layer of red cloth. Xuan smiled and said, I believe everyone has guessed our first auction item. Our mysterious Master Lin has appeared again. Many people have asked me if there are any other ways to buy the pills that Master Lin has made. Here, I will answer all of them. Master Lin is working with our Sanctuary Alliance auction house. All the pills that he has made will be distributed by us. You can't buy them anywhere else. Long Haochen looked at Lin Xian almost immediately. Is she talking about you? Lin Xian said somewhat complacently. Isn't it this Grandmaster? It's good to be young. Outside, even if I say that these pills were made by me, no one would believe me. It's best if they don't believe me. It'll save us trouble. Long Haochen was stunned. Then tell me, aren't you afraid that I will tell others? We just met. Lin Xian smiled mysteriously and said, Of course I'm not afraid. Let's watch the auction first. The red cloth was removed and a beautiful crystal bottle appeared on the golden cart. The view from the private room was very good. Long Haochen could tell with one look that the red pill in the crystal bottle was exactly the same as the energy pill that Lin Xian had shown him. However, there was only one pill in the bottle. Master Lin's product, Jasper Body Protection Pill. Pinnacle of Grade 3 Pill. After consuming it, the body's external spiritual energy defense will increase by 500 for half an hour. The skin will be as tough as steel. It's effective against physical and magical attacks. This isn't the first time the Jasper Body Protection Pill is being auctioned. I won't say much about it. On the battlefield, having such a pill is equivalent to having an extra life. The starting bid is 1,000 gold coins. Each increment must be no less than 50 gold coins. The body's external spiritual energy defense will increase by 500. This meant that the increased spiritual energy could not be used to attack. However, what did 500 external spiritual energy mean? It meant that all attacks below grade 4 would be ineffective, and it could last for as long as half an hour. Long Haochen was still a little better, but Lin Xian and Lin Jialu had a look of shock on their faces at this time. The starting price of such an elixir was as high as 1,000 gold coins. No wonder potioneering was the richest profession. This Master Lin was really amazing. Very quickly, the bids rang out continuously. In a short while, this Jasper Body Protection Pill reached 1,500 gold coins. Long Haochen was a little moved. That Star Jade auctioneer was right. With such a pill, as long as he wasn't facing a grade 5 and above opponent, it was equivalent to having an extra life. Simply put, when he faced the Jade Green Dual Blade Demons, if he had this pill, he wouldn't have been injured at all. In the end, this Jasper Body Protection Pill was sold for 1,800 gold coins. Lin Xian seemed a little dissatisfied with this price. Only 1,800? Last time it was 2,000. Looks like I'll have to sell a little less. The rarer something is, the more valuable it is. This master will keep it as candy and not let them off. Brother Long, how about we make a deal? Long Haochen's heart moved. What deal? Lin Xian smiled and handed him the crystal bottle with 3 Jasper Body Protection Pills, saying, You only need to answer one question of mine, and this bottle of power pill is yours. Long Haochen looked at him in surprise. 1,800 gold coins. These 3 pills were equivalent to more than 5,000 gold coins. What kind of question could be worth so much? Lin Xian smiled. No need be so surprised. This thing is expensive outside, But to me, the cost is only a few dozen gold coins. Do you know how many jade green dual blade demons can make? I don't dare to say too many, but I can still make 80 to 100. Lin Xin was afraid that Long Haochen would be at a disadvantage, so she rushed to say, "First tell us what the question is, if we can answer it. Then see if we can answer it." Lin Xin laughed, saying, "The question is very simple. You can definitely answer it. I just want to ask if that jade green dual blade demon was killed by you guys." Lin Xin was stunned. "That's simple." Lin Xin spread out his hands, saying, "Isn't it that simple?" Lin Xin said, "That's nothing. We killed it." Lin Xin raised his hand and snapped his fingers, stuffing the crystal bottle into Long Haochen's hands, saying, "Very good deal." Long Haochen couldn't believe his ears. "Lin Xin, this is too expensive. I can't accept it. More than 5,000 gold coins." He had never seen so much money in his life. Lin Xin slapped his forehead, a helpless look on his face. "Brother Long, I've already said that this is a transaction. I'm not giving it to you for free. Also, I have something to ask of you." Long Haochen was a kind person, holding such an expensive thing. Although he liked it, he still didn't keep it. "What is it?" Lin Xin smiled, saying confidently, "If I'm not wrong, you should be going to the Holy City to participate in the Monster Hunter's trials, right?" Lin Xin was surprised, saying, "How did you guess that?" Lin Xin said, "It's not hard to guess. As long as you come from the south, going to the Holy City, you'll have to pass through AI May City. Your age matches, and the question you just answered proves that you have the qualifications to participate in the trials. Isn't it obvious? Just now, I said I'm not afraid of you revealing that I'm Master Lin, because first, no one will believe that I can make third-stage pills at my age, and second, because you won't be staying in AI May City for long. You'll be going to the Holy City soon to participate in the trials. Am I right?" Lin Xin raised her eyebrows, saying, "Why? Are you trying to attack your competitors in advance?" Lin Xin hurriedly shook his head, saying, "Why would I? I just want to work together with you. Brother Long, what I want to ask of you won't harm you in any way. I just hope that after we enter the finals of the Monster Hunter's trials, if you can get into the top 3, then please choose me as your teammate." Hearing that, Lin Jialu was instantly indignant, saying, "Why should I choose you? I'm a sorcerer too." According to the rules of the Monster Hunters, the 6 members of a complete team of 6 Monster Hunters must belong to the 6 main temples, which means that a Monster Hunters can only have 1 sorcerer. Lin Xin said, "Sister, I'll be honest. In my opinion, with your cultivation, I'm afraid it'll be difficult for you to enter the finals." Lin Jialu was stunned. "You can see my cultivation?" Lin Xin chuckled, saying, "That's my secret. Brother Long, how about it? Do you agree? As long as you agree to my request, we'll be good brothers in the future. Not to mention anything else, you'll have enough elixirs. Everything will be free. I'm so poor now that I only have elixirs and money." Although he was very handsome, the smile on his face now looked like a big bad wolf looking at a little white rabbit, no matter how you look at it. Long Haochen said doubtfully, "But how can you be so sure that I can enter the top 3? Lin Xin said, "It's a gamble. It won't hurt me if you don't enter the top 3. It won't hurt you to agree to me, and you can feel at ease if you accept my 3 vigor pills." Suddenly, Long Haochen's body shook violently. Then, his forehead lit up, and a purplish gold rune lit up on his forehead. This rune was very special. When it first appeared, it was a purplish gold origin, but very quickly, 9 purple light patterns extended upwards. Each light pattern was an inch long, and there was a hazy fluctuation of spiritual power on them. The purple light spread, and with a flash, a figure appeared in front of Long Haochen. It was Haoyue. At this moment, Haoyue was clearly a little strange. As soon as it appeared, it immediately jumped towards Long Haochen and made continuous whining sounds, as if it was saying something. Others might not understand what Haoyue was saying, but Long Haochen, who had a telepathic connection with it, could understand. "Haoyue, calm down. I'll try my best." As he spoke, he raised his head and looked towards the auction stage outside. At this moment, the auction stage had changed to a cart. On the golden cart, There was a stone ball the size of a human head. On the stone ball, one could faintly see some dark green patterns. On the stage, the host, Xing Xian, was introducing the item. The next item to be auctioned is a little special. Even the most authoritative appraiser in this auction house can't identify what it is. However, the seller who is preparing to sell this item has set a starting price of 10,000 gold coins. The Sanctuary Alliance auction house has always been fair and will never extort a single gold coin from our VIPs. Next, I will introduce to everyone the evaluation of this item by the chief auctioneer of this auction house. This item looks very inconspicuous, just like an ordinary stone ball. However, no detection magic can penetrate it. It is completely isolated by the surface of the stone shell. Unless the surface is smashed, otherwise, even a powerful 9th-grade professional can't detect the situation inside. The only thing that can be confirmed is that there is spiritual power seeping out of this stone ball. The patterns on the surface of the stone ball are formed by the spiritual power seeping out. According to the chief auctioneer, this stone ball is likely to contain a rare metal, or it could be something else. Now, the bidding begins. The starting price is 10,000 gold coins. Distinguished guests, please consider carefully before making your bid. Once it is sold, there is no refund. Obviously, because this item was too inconspicuous and the price was so high, the Star Jade auctioneer deliberately emphasized a few words. It was obvious that the Sanctuary Alliance auction house wasn't optimistic about this auction item. 10,000 gold coins, that was 10,000 gold coins. At this moment, Long Haochen's heart was in a fierce struggle. Hao Yue's sudden appearance was not summoned by him, but Hao Yue itself teleported here. This was beyond the scope of the equality contract. Obviously, it was the effect of the blood contract. And Hao Yue sent an urgent signal to Long Haochen when this stone ball was pushed onto the stage, as if this stone ball was extremely important to him. Because of the blood connection, the things that Long Haochen could feel, even if Hao Yue wasn't by his side, he could still feel it. Therefore, he came here as soon as possible. At this moment, he was jumping up and down, wanting to get this stone ball. Prodigal, too prodigal, looking at Xiao Guang and Xiao Huo's shining eyes, as if they wouldn't give up until they got this item. Long Haochen was really helpless. He had just received 2,000 gold coins, and he still had to share with others. Where would he have 10,000 gold coins to buy this thing? Long Haochen was looking at the stone ball on the stage outside, while Lin Xian was observing Hao Yue. When Hao Yue appeared, his face was full of surprise. He had seen too many kinds of magical beasts. He had seen many rare magical beasts, but he had never seen a Hao Yue. Lin Xian had once bought a magic called Insight at a high price at an auction. With this magic, he could investigate the situation of any profession, including magical beasts. The prerequisite was that the cultivation of the person being investigated could not exceed him by more than one level. Obviously, Hao Yue was at most a level 4 magical beast. He hadn't reached the peak of level 4, which was equivalent to a level 3 human expert, but his insight had failed. Moreover, this was not the first time it failed today. Why was he so close to Long Haochen? Because when he used the insight on Long Haochen, apart from Long Haochen's current spiritual strength and age, he didn't find anything more detailed. That was why he was so interested in Long Haochen. So strange, what kind of magical beast was this? Lin Xian was full of doubts. At this time, the auction outside had already become silent. 10,000 gold coins was not a small amount. One must know 1 gold coin was enough to feed a family of 3 for half a month. 10 gold coins was enough to buy a set of ordinary armor. 10,000 gold coins was enough to arm a 100-knight regiment to the teeth. This stone ball said that rare metals might appear, but among the rare metals, how many could be so valuable? Moreover, God knows how big the metal inside was. If it was only the size of a fist, even a high-grade magical metal like mithril would not be worth so much money. Xing Xian asked for the 3rd time on the stage, "Is there any distinguished guest interested in this auction item?" There was still no response. Few people who often participated in auctions would be particularly impulsive. If it was 100 gold coins, Maybe someone would buy it and gamble, but 10,000 gold coins, not many people would be willing to gamble. Brother Lin, Long Haochen suddenly called. Looking at Hao Yue's hopeful eyes, he finally made up his mind. Lin Xin was still thinking about the origin of Hao Yue, only reacted when he was called. Brother Lin, if you lend me money to buy this auction item in front of me, I will agree to your request. Long Haochen said resolutely. No need to borrow from him. Sister will buy it for you. Lin Jialu, who had been silent for a long time, suddenly said, and quickly stepped forward, quickly pressing the number 10,000 gold coins on the auction machine in front. On the auction stage, Xing Xian said with some regret, "It seems that our second auction item will not be sold." Wait. The sixth guest bids 10,000 gold coins. 10,000 gold coins, going once. Seeing someone bid, she was a little surprised, but when she saw that it was from the sixth room, she couldn't help but frown, glancing at Lin Xian's room with some reproach. The crystal glass of the room was made of a special material and could only be seen from the inside. The auction outside was already in an uproar, and many people were sneering. But what they didn't know was that in the sixth room, there was someone screaming. The scream was from Lin Xian. "Sister, you can't do this. Brother Long already said that he wanted to borrow money from me. How can you rob him?" Lin Xian looked depressed. Lin Jialu smiled sweetly. "Haochen is my brother. As a sister, isn't it normal to buy something for him?" Long Haochen was shocked. "Sister Lin, how can you do this? That's 10,000 gold coins." Lin Jialu stood up, walked to Long Haochen's side, looked at him with a gentle gaze, and said, "Haochen, if you were over 20 years old this year, I would definitely snatch you away, even if I have to be shameless. Even if I have to offend Xian again, I won't hesitate. Unfortunately, our age difference is too big, and I can only be your sister. I will never forget what happened that day. Twice, for a whole 2 times, you saved my life. Especially the second time. I could even smell the god of death, and it was you who pulled me back from the edge of death. If you don't give me a chance to repay you, I will never be at ease." Sister Lin, Long Haochen anxiously wanted to refuse, but Lin Jialu raised her hand to cover his mouth. "Don't say anything. Do you think that my life is not worth 10,000 gold coins? I have discussed this matter with your sister, Xian. She has also agreed. If you are not willing to accept, then don't call us sisters in the future." Ever since completing the trial mission that day, Lin Jialu had been woken up by nightmares almost every night. She could never forget the ice-cold sharp blade of the Earth Dragon clan's invisible creature. A life-saving grace. Without Long Haochen, she would have died without a doubt that day. She was a person who knew how to repay kindness. These days, the relationship between her and Lin Xian had also eased up a lot. There was no irreconcilable conflict between them in the first place, and now that things were out in the open, the previous grievances were over. She had already thought of buying something for Long Haochen at a May City's auction house a few days ago. This was a large auction house, and there would be no lack of good things. Buying something useful for Long Haochen, who was about to participate in the Monster Hunter's trials, was the best way she could think of to repay him. Long Haochen took a deep breath and finally nodded, saying, "Thank you, sister." Lin Jialu was overjoyed and patted his head, saying, "That's my good little brother." Lin Xian said with some jealousy, "Humph, I want to earn more money in the future. 3rd time sold. This mysterious stone ball goes to guest number 6. Xing Xian's voice came from outside. With no one bidding, it was finally sold for 10,000 gold coins. Lin Xian said gloomily, "Brother Long, continue looking. If there's anything else that catches your eye, let me know. I'll give it to you this time, as long as you agree to my request." Long Haochen smiled and shook his head, saying, "I don't have anything else that I want, but I will consider your proposal. But we still have to enter the Monster Hunter's Trials finals to have a chance. Isn't that so?" At this time, Hao Yue had already calmed down, but the desire in his eyes did not diminish, but instead increased. Lying at Long Haochen's feet, Xiao Guang and Xiao Hua constantly rubbed against his legs. Lin Xian sat there as if thinking about something. At this time, there was a knock on the door. The door opened, and the girl called Xiao Nuo came in, pushing a small golden cart like the one on the auction stage. On top of it was the mysterious stone ball. Seeing the stone ball, Haiyue almost pounced on it, but Long Haochen looked at him, and he restrained himself, but his body was still trembling slightly. Ever since he brought Haiyue out from a night sacred mountain, this was the first time Long Haochen saw him so emotional. 10,000 gold coins, for Long Haochen, was definitely an astronomical figure. Even if Lin Jialu paid for it, he would firmly remember this favor in his heart and would definitely return it in the future. If it was another person, he would definitely not be so willful. Spending money for the interest of his magical beast companion was not something he could afford at the moment. But Long Haochen was different. He valued family the most, and Haiyue had a blood contract with him, and each of them had a part of each other's blood flowing in their bodies. Long Haochen almost treated it like a younger brother. Seeing Haiyue being so eager, he chose to believe in his younger brother's intuition and made up his mind to buy the stone ball. And he also believed that in the future, he would definitely be able to earn a figure like 10,000 gold coins. Lin Jialu went forward and paid with her magic crystal card. After Xiao Nuo pushed the card in, she wanted to greet Lin Xian, but saw that Lin Xian was sitting there as if he was deep in thought. Although she felt it was strange, she still left. In her impression, this Master Lin always had a smile on his face. Long Haochen did not directly give the stone ball to Haiyue, but kept it in his forget-me-not ring. After all, Lin Xian was an outsider. No matter if there was anything magical about this stone ball, this auction was obviously not a suitable place to display it. Chapter 20. Lin Xian slapped his thigh. "I'll take the bet." As if he had made up his mind, he lifted his head to look at Long Haochen. "Brother Long, although this is the first time we've met, I believe in my judgment. I'll take the bet with you." Long Haochen shook his head. "Lin Xian, I don't gamble." Lin Xian shook his head. "I'm not asking you to gamble with me. I'm gambling with myself. Here are 3 bottles of pills. Take them. Each bottle has a note explaining how to use them." As he spoke, the red light in his hand flashed again, and the 3 bottles of pills appeared in his palm. They were all crystal bottles. Each bottle contained 10 pills the size of soybeans, but the colors were different. Long Haochen didn't take the 3 bottles of pills, but looked at Lin Xian with a questioning gaze. Lin Xian sighed lightly and said, "Brother, I didn't take these medicinal pills for nothing. I'll say it again, I hope you agree to my request just now. Make me a promise." Long Haochen looked at him in shock. "The value of your pills is so high. Just for a promise," Lin Xian smiled. "That's why I said it's a bet. I believe in my own judgment, and if I really succeed, I'll still be the one making a profit. These are all my proudest creations, even better than the vigorous pill, and I've never sold them outside. In terms of making pills, I'm confident. I'll tell you the truth, I really don't want to be a potioneering master. My biggest goal in life is to travel the whole continent in search of those mysterious ruins. And the most likely way to achieve this goal is to become a member of the monster hunters. I'm very talented in making potions, but in terms of magic, I'm a lot worse. I'm good at supporting magic, but I'm not very good at offensive magic. So, even if my spiritual power is abundant, my fighting power is not enough. I've signed up for the Monster Hunters competition, and I'm confident I can get a place in the Magic Temple. But in the finals, the 6 temples will compete together, and I'm afraid I won't be able to handle it. Because I'm not good at fighting, I need a strong team. If you can get into the top 3 in the finals, you'll have a chance to choose a teammate. If you promise to give me this chance, these 3 bottles of pills are yours. If you can't get into the top 3, then I'll lose. I can vaguely see through your strength, but with your current cultivation, I'm afraid it will be difficult for you to reach the top 3. But with my pills, it'll be different. You have a chance. Brother Long, let's give each other a chance." At this moment, Haiyue came over from under Long Haochen's feet. After Long Haochen put the stone orb into the forget-me-not ring, his emotions had calmed down a lot. In a very human-like manner, it used its 2 hind legs to prop itself up, its nose sniffing the 3 bottles in Lin Xian's hands. Then, he turned to Long Haochen and nodded. At the same time, a thought came to Long Haochin from Hao Yue. This person has no bad intentions. He can be trusted. What Hao Yue passed on to Long Haochin was an intuition. Although Long Haochin didn't know where his intuition came from, on the battlefield, Long Haochin had judged the enemy's sneak attack twice. The second time, it was Hao Yue who first discovered the invisible ground dragon tribe. Long Haochin only noticed it a little later than it did. "Okay, I promise you," Long Haochin said solemnly as he took the 3 bottles from Lin Xian's hands. In fact, Lin Xian felt some pain in his heart. Only he knew the value of these 3 bottles. It was almost equal to a third of his savings. The reason why he made such a decision was indeed because of his vision. First, it was Long Haochin and Hao Yue's mysteriousness. Second, it was Long Haochin's temperament. Combined with the observation of insight technique, Lin Xian decided to gamble. Perhaps there was an existence stronger than Long Haochin in the Monster Hunter's trials. However, after using insight technique several times, Lin Xian finally discovered the mystery of the Saint's spiritual stove in Long Haochin's body. A guardian knight with the Saint's spiritual stove meant life protection for the magicians in the same team. Moreover, in a short period of time, he couldn't find those top young elites to cooperate with. Of course, Lin Xian also had his craftiness. He grasped an important point, and that was Long Haochin's age. As long as you are under 25 years old, you can participate in the Monster Hunter's trials. Even if you can't do it this time, what about 5 years later? Now that Long Haochin is already rank 4, what kind of cultivation can he achieve in 5 years? At that time, fighting for the top 3 shouldn't be a problem. Moreover, he was only 18 years old this year. 5 years later, he would still be in the range of the Monster Hunter's trials. He didn't know what his decision meant at this time. Lin Xian had made countless pills in his life, but the most valuable ones were the 3 bottles in front of him. The moment he made up his mind, the god of luck was already standing by his side. Outside, the auction was still going on. There was no lack of fine products, but no one had any interest. Fortunately, they left early and left the Sacred Alliance auction house. "Brother Long, we will meet again in the Sacred Alliance. Let's do our best." Lin Xian didn't pester him anymore. Both hands slightly combed the dark green long hair behind his head. He revealed a confident smile to Long Haochin, turned around, and left. Looking at his departing figure, Lin Xian said with some blame, "Little brother, you are a little impulsive. We don't know who he is." Long Haochin smiled slightly and said, "He shouldn't be a bad person. Hao Yue's intuition tells me that we can agree to him." Lil Light and Lil Fire nodded their heads in succession. Then they bit the hem of Long Haochin's trousers and pulled it up. Clearly, they were still thinking about that mysterious stone ball. Lin Xian and Lin Jello looked at each other. I didn't say anything. After all, that Lin Xian was a potion apothecary. There was no harm in Long Haochin making such a friend. Back at the hotel, Long Haochin had just closed the door when Hao Yue couldn't help jumping up and down. Long Haochin said somewhat helplessly, "You are quite impatient," as he said that a layer of gentle golden light spread out from his body. It was the spirit light cover. In an instant, the spirit light cover enveloped the entire room. In terms of defense, the spirit light cover really wasn't much, but its ability to isolate sound and energy aura was very practical. After completing the isolation of the spirit light cover, Long Haochin took out the stone ball from the forget-me-not ring and handed it to Hao Yue. Lil Light and Lil Fire looked at each other. Suddenly, Lil Light opened his mouth and swallowed the stone ball. It must be known that this stone ball was the size of a human head. Although Hao Yue was also 2 meters long, his head wasn't too big. Fiercely swallowing such a stone ball, Lil Light's neck bulged. With great difficulty, the stone ball gradually slid into Hao Yue's stomach. They ate it just like that. Long Haochin looked at Lil Light and Lil Fire in astonishment. Woo 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 woo. Lil Fire let out a series of whimpering sounds towards Long Haochin. They couldn't really speak, but they could transmit their thoughts to Long Haochin through the contract. Long Haochin was suddenly startled. "What? You want to return to your original world?" Lil Fire transmitted this information to him. Moreover, Lil Fire also told Long Houchen that they might not be able to return for a period of time, so they couldn't be summoned by Long Houchen. As for how long this period of time would be, they themselves didn't know. Ever since Hao Yue had followed Long Houchen, they had never thought of returning to their original space. At this moment, it was clearly because of the stone ball that a change had occurred. Long Houchen looked at them and somewhat reluctantly nodded. It seems that the stone ball is really important to you. Since that's the case, you can return. There's no need to worry about me here. There won't be any danger in participating in the Demon Extermination Squad selection. In fact, with the upcoming competition, Long Houchen needed Hao Yue's help the most. Although Hao Yue's cultivation wasn't very high, Lil Light and Lil Fire could use many kinds of magic. In addition, they cooperated extremely well with Long Houchen, which would be of great help to him. However, Long Houchen didn't want to disappoint Lil Light and Lil Fire because of his own matters. He could also strongly sense their desire for the stone ball. Lil Light and Lil Fire revealed some shame in their eyes. They clearly knew that they shouldn't leave Long Houchen at this time. They rubbed their heads against Long Houchen's legs and whimpered a few times. But the determination in their eyes didn't change in the slightest. Clearly, they had made up their minds. The purple patterns on Hao Yue's back slowly lit up, transforming into a layer of faint purple light that enveloped his body. He gave Long Houchen a deep look, and the purple light faded. In the next instant, Hao Yue's body seemed to shrink in an instant and disappeared, returning to his original space. Looking at the place where Hao Yue disappeared, Long Houchen barely suppressed the reluctance in his heart. He took out the 3 bottles given to him by Lin Xin from the Forget-Me-Not ring, opened the corks of each bottle, and took out the slips of paper inside to read. Long Houchen's eyes widened in an instant as he took a look. His first reaction was, "Is this real?" The 3 slips of paper were very simple. The first one said, "Below the 5th step, take 1 pill daily for cultivation, and you'll gain 10 spiritual energy points." The second one said, "Take it under any circumstances, and you'll recover 200 spiritual energy points in 10 seconds. The third one said, "Instantly stimulate your potential and increase your overall battle strength by 20% for 30 seconds. After using it, you'll be weak for 24 hours. Although Long Houchen didn't know that these were already the best of the 4th step pills, he could see the value of these things. This favor seemed to be a little too big. Whether it was for the promise to Lin Xin or to improve his cultivation as soon as possible to find his parents, he had to work hard. Thinking of this, Long Houchen took out 1 pill from the first bottle, put it in his mouth, and sat cross-legged to cultivate. Early the next morning, Long Houchen and the others set off again and went straight to the sacred city. After a day's rest, everyone was in high spirits. The Monster Hunters trial was about to begin. They had their own plans and expectations, but there was no doubt that they were all full of motivation. After 2 days of rushing, the sacred city in the distance was already in sight. Long Houchen and the others slowed down their horses and slowly moved forward. There was still 1.5 days before the competition report time, so they didn't need to be too anxious. As they were moving forward, there was suddenly a dispute in front of them, attracting the attention of Long Houchen and the others. "I've long found you an eyesore, you damn baldy. It just so happens that we haven't reached the sacred city yet, so I don't think you need to participate in the trial. Hand over your number plate, and you can go back to the cultivator city. A priest who doesn't even know how to heal actually wants to lead us. Do you really think you're the captain? Are you guys trying to rebel?" A deep voice sounded. The reason why this sudden voice attracted Long Houchen's attention was because the first voice sounded very familiar. After passing through a small forest, Long Houchen, Lin Xin, and the others saw the 2 sides of the quarrel. There was a total of 6 people in the forest. Long Houchen's judgment was right. One of them was indeed an acquaintance. It was Gue Wu, whom he had met on the Knight's Sacred Mountain. At this moment, Gue Wu was riding on his fiery red scarlet-scaled earth dragon, holding a spear in his right hand, looking high and mighty. These 6 people were divided into 2 groups, with Gue Wu actually having 5 people. Naturally, there was only one person on the other side. It was a bald, robust man. He was extremely tall, at least 2 meters tall, with broad shoulders and bulging muscles that pushed up his clothes. Not even a blade of grass grew on his bald head, shining like the tiles, sword-like eyebrows, tiger-like eyes, a straight nose, and a square mouth. But what made Long Hao-Chin and the others curious was that this bald, robust man was actually wearing a white robe. This was a prayer robe that only priests would wear. Thinking back to what they had just heard, the expressions on the faces of Long Hao-Chin and the others immediately became marvelous. This robust man, who looked even more valiant than ordinary warriors a knight, was actually a priest? That's right, he was a priest. Wasn't he holding a magic staff in his hand? If that could be called a magic staff, the bald, robust man's right hand was holding a black staff that was at least 3 meters long and as thick as an arm. It was hard to tell what material it was made of, but at the top of the staff was a sparkling, light golden gem. Otherwise, it would really be mistaken for an iron rod. Because the forest that Long Hao-Chin and the others had just passed through was on a small hillside, they could now clearly see these 6 people, while the other side didn't see them. The 5 people opposite the bald priest were obviously led by Gue Wu. Gue Wu pointed the spear in his hand at the bald priest and said, "Sima Xian, hand over your number plate and scram, and we'll let you go. A guy like you will only bring shame to our Xiuqing city when you get there." The bald priest's eyes shone with a cold light. "I, your father, won't hand it over. What can you little bastards do to me?" Gue Wu sinisterly smiled. "Then I'll beat you until even your mother can't recognize you. Go." While saying that, the red-scaled earth dragon he was riding on roared, and its 4 hooves flew as it brazenly charged towards the bald priest. Among the other 4 people with him, 1 warrior followed Gue Wu from the side. Among the other 3, 2 magicians began to chant incantations, and the last one, who had a small stature and a black veil over his face, seemed to be an assassin. His figure flashed, and he circled around from the side. From the looks of it, these 5 people had a tacit understanding with each other. Seeing this, Long Hao-Chin's face suddenly revealed a trace of anger. Regardless of whether the 2 sides were right or wrong, these 5 people had unexpectedly besieged a priest. This kind of despicable behavior had already caused him to feel extreme disdain. Just as he was about to rush out to help, Lin Exant, who was beside him, pulled him back. "Little brother, let's watch first. Don't you see that the priest has a fearless look on his face? He should have some ability to protect himself." Facing the siege of Gue Wu and the other 4, the bald priest, Sima Xian, let out an angry roar. Instead of advancing, he retreated at an extremely fast pace. At the same time, the large magic staff in his hand also lit up. Priests and knight had always been known as the light's companion because they had mastered holy light magic. However, the light magic of a priest was mainly focused on powerful healing and support. Raising his magic staff, a brilliant golden light suddenly lit up, transforming into a golden beam of light that enveloped the bald priest, Sima Xian. This was a priest's offensive and defensive skill, holy light. It could effectively protect oneself, and at the same time produce a certain degree of lethality towards enemies in close combat. The speed at which Sima Xian retreated was very fast. From this, it could be seen that the quality of his body wasn't weak. However, in the end, it was still impossible for him to compare to the red-scaled earth dragon. Gue Wu pointed the long spear in his hand forward, and a golden light shot out. The long spear version of the light-cutting sword, also known as the Thorn of Light. A golden light pierced straight towards Sima Xian. Gue Wu was also a guardian knight. However, he wasn't using a shield at this moment. Instead, he was holding the long spear with both hands. At the same time that the Thorn of Light was activated, the red-scaled earth dragon had already rushed to the front of the bald priest, Sima Xian. In an instant, its right front hoof stamped on the ground. It was a skill that strength-type magical beasts were proficient in, war trample. The intense shock wave caused the surrounding ground to slightly cave in. Just as Lin Xian had said, there wasn't a trace of panic on Sima Xian's face. On the contrary, A ruthless and fierce expression appeared on the face of this sturdy priest. With a humming sound, the thorn of light was dispelled by the holy light radiating from his body. At the same time, the staff in Sima Xian's hand heavily stamped on the ground, causing a milky white halo of light to instantly spread out. Not only did it dispel the shock wave from the war trample, it even caused the red-scaled earth dragon to stagger, causing its charge to be disrupted. Aha! With a loud roar, Sima Xian unexpectedly raised the large staff in his hand, welcoming the incoming spear thrust by the ghost marshal. A loud clang rang out. On the hillside, Long Haochen and the others were dumbfounded to see that the ghost marshal's long spear had unexpectedly been deflected by Sima Xian's attack. Furthermore, the ghost marshal's upper body had also started to sway. From the sound of the collision, they could tell that the bald priest's staff was indeed made of metal. One had to know that the ghost marshal was a guardian knight. Furthermore, he was able to block the red-scaled earth dragon's charge. One could well imagine how strong he was. However, he had suffered a loss in the collision. At the same time that Sima Xian was blocking the ghost marshal's attack, the red-scaled earth dragon had already sent a slap towards him. The sharp claws on its thick and broad palm radiated a dense light. However, Sima Xian didn't panic in the slightest. With a half-turn of his body, he swung the staff's tail. With a bang, he collided head-on with the red-scaled earth dragon. The red-scaled earth dragon unexpectedly staggered from his attack and tilted to the side. Immediately after, Sima Xian's body turned around, and the staff in his hand swept out, smashing towards the side of the red-scaled earth dragon. The ghost marshal stabilized his body in a flash, and hastily used the long spear in his hand to block. Bang! A shocking scene appeared. The long spear in the ghost marshal's hand was unexpectedly smashed back to the red-scaled earth dragon's body. Accompanied by a pained roar from the red-scaled earth dragon, the ghost marshal was unexpectedly smashed back 2 meters and nearly fell to the side. A priest, facing a guardian knight riding on a red-scaled earth dragon that was known for its strength, had unexpectedly gained the upper hand in a head-on confrontation. Regardless of who saw this scene, they would feel as if they had seen a ghost. However, Sima Xian's situation wasn't looking good. The 2 warriors that had rushed out together with the ghost marshal had already arrived, and at the same time, 2 gigantic chain fireballs had also arrived. The chain fireballs descended from the sky, directly sealing off Sima Xian's path of retreat. As for the 2 warriors, one on the left and one on the right, both wielding 2-handed greatswords, they simultaneously launched a leap slash. However, an astonishing scene appeared. Facing a siege, Sima Xian's choice was beyond everyone's expectations. He quickly retreated 2 steps, and at the tip of the staff in his hand, a milky white ray of light transformed into a giant hammer, which he instantly smashed behind him. Retreating 2 steps had admittedly allowed him to dodge the leap slash of the 2 warriors in front of him, but in return, he had to endure the attacks of 2 consecutive chain fireballs. Bang! A blood-curdling scream rang out as a black figure was ruthlessly sent flying by the milky white giant hammer, falling to the ground. It was precisely the assassin that had circled around from behind. He had originally wanted to use the explosion of the chain fireballs as a cover, and wait for the instant the explosion of the chain fireballs disappeared to launch a sneak attack. However, he hadn't expected that Sima Xian would actually disregard the attacks from the front and the mages and be the first to target him. Hammer of Holy Light, the strongest offensive skill of a priest before reaching the 5th level. To be precise, the offensive skills of a priest were extremely lacking. Before reaching the 5th level, there were only 3, namely Holy Light, Hammer of Holy Light, and the white halo of Holy Light Blast that Sima Xian had previously used. The assassin was smashed by the Hammer of Holy Light, and Sima Xian was ruthlessly hit by a series of chain fireballs. Holy Light was shattered, and several chain fireballs smashed into his body, causing him to continuously retreat 6 or 7 steps, and many parts of the prayer robe on his body were charred black. Sima Xian roared angrily, and with a violent jerk of his arms, An extremely valiant aura erupted from his body. Immediately after that, his already majestic body suddenly expanded, and with a poof, the prayer robe on his body was directly shattered by him, revealing a body of strong bronze-colored muscles. On those mountain-like muscles, the python tendons were intertwined, faintly glowing with a layer of red light, and actually dispelled the charred parts of his body. On the hillside, Chun Chun, who rarely spoke, involuntarily exclaimed, "Berserk, F*CK, a priest that can go berserk." Berserk was a skill that even a berserker might not necessarily be able to use. It had extremely high requirements for physical strength, and it was a secret skill of the warrior temple. Without enough merit points, it was impossible to learn. As a berserker, Chanshin currently did not know how to use it, but this bald priest in front of him had actually used it. Pong pong. Two sounds rang out, as the two soldiers that were rushing over were forcibly knocked back by Sima Xian's staff. However, the ghost warrior had already rushed over once again, his halo of faith and blessing of protection spreading out. The long spear in his hand was dazzling with golden light, transforming into dozens of spear shadows that enveloped Sima Xian. After going berserk, Sima Xian appeared even more valiant, his staff flying up and down, facing the joint attack of the ghost warrior and the red-scaled earth dragon. He unexpectedly did not retreat even half a step, forcefully blocking. At this time, the ghost warrior's complexion was already extremely unsightly. Although he knew that Sima Xian was very valiant, he did not expect him to be strong to this extent. He and the other two warriors were only barely able to fight to a draw with Sima Xian alone. Stabilize the attack. His berserk state can't be maintained for too long. The ghost warrior shouted loudly, the golden light on his body becoming more and more intense. The red-scaled earth dragon beneath him helping him block the majority of Sima Xian's attack. It was also at this time, behind the ghost warrior, a huge red light with a diameter of more than 3 meters rose into the sky, reflecting a fiery red light in the surroundings. The two magicians behind the ghost warrior with similar appearances raised their staffs. This huge fiery red light was released by them. Union Dazzling Fire Dance. It was a powerful Tier 5 offensive spell. These two magicians were brothers, and by relying on the profoundness of union, they were able to use this spell of a higher rank than them, a spell that consumed a lot of mana, yet possessed extremely high attack power. For the first time, the bald priest, Sima Xian's complexion changed. No matter how valiant he was only one person. His cultivation was still at the Tier 4 level, while Ghost Warrior and the others were also Tier 4 professions. With the 5 of them working together, this valiant priest was finally unable to hold on. Just as the dazzling fire dance rose into the sky and locked onto Sima Xian, 2 rays of light suddenly appeared, forcefully squeezing into the battlefield. A golden red ray of light instantly fell on Sima Xian's body, and immediately, a layer of golden red runes appeared on Sima Xian's body. Whether it was his strength, attack power, or defense, all of them were instantly amplified. In his berserk state, he waved his staff repeatedly, forcibly pushing back the 2 warriors. The other white ray of light fell on the body of magician at the back, and a strange scene appeared. The dazzling fire dance, which had originally locked on a Sima Xian, unexpectedly changed its direction and flew towards Sima Xian's side. Boom! A red light flashed, and everything within a radius of 10 meters was turned into scorched earth. However, a youth, whose whole body was shining with a golden radiance, stood proudly in the center of the dazzling fire dance's explosion, as if he wasn't affected in the slightest. The youth held a shield in his left hand and a sword in his right. It was Long Haochen. Long Haochen pointed the light sword in his hand towards Sima Xian's direction, and the divine block's vengeance of light transformed into a ray of healing light that fell on his body. The warm energy nourished Sima Xian's meridians, which were aching due to the berserk state, and immediately roused his spirit. Stop! Ghost Warrior, who was riding on the back of the red-scaled earth dragon, fiercely raised the spear in his hand, controlling the red-scaled earth dragon to retreat a few steps. His two warrior companions also quickly retreated, stopping their attacks. "It's you." Ghost Warrior's gloomy gaze stared at Long Houchin. Long Houchin said indifferently, "It's me. Do you still remember the bet between Teacher Yihua and your father?" Ghost Warrior's complexion slightly changed. He had just seen with his own eyes that Long Houchin had actually blocked the attack of a rank 5 magic, dazzling fire dance. His original confidence had already weakened by a lot. "Of course I remember. We'll meet at the selection. Let's go." He had already seen Long Houchin and his companions. With the addition of the violent priest, Sima Xian, they definitely wouldn't be able to gain any advantage. Two warriors lifted the heavily injured assassin, while Ghost Warrior and his companions dejectedly walked towards the direction of the holy city. Long Houchin didn't obstruct them. Even if he wanted to defeat Ghost Warrior, he wanted to defeat him fair and square in the Monster Hunter selection. Half a year ago, Ghost Warrior was a rank 8 knight. Now, he was only a rank 1 great knight. Even with the addition of the scarlet-scaled Earth Dragon, Long Houchin still had the certainty of victory. "What kind of plaything is this, Pei?" Sima Xian spat in the direction of Ghost Warrior and his companions in disdain. Long Houchin turned to him and said, "Hello, let's get to know each other. I'm called Long Houchin." Sima Xian rubbed his shiny bald head, laughed, and said, "Brother, thanks. I'm called Sima Xian. Are you also going to the Holy City to participate in the selection?" Long Houchin nodded and said, "Yes, we're from the southern Hao US city. What's going on with you guys? Don't tell me you're not from Shocheng." Sima Xian said with a gloomy face, "Don't mention it. None of those guys are good. Especially that Ghost Warrior. He's full of evil tricks. Not only did he refuse to complete the training mission with me, but he also wanted to deprive me of the right to participate in the selection. He said that I'm a disgrace to Shocheng. Your father, just don't know how to heal. How am I a disgrace to Shocheng? I think they're worried that if I get a good result in the selection, Ghost Warrior's father won't be able to win against my teacher." A priest who doesn't know how to heal. Long Houchin's heart twitched. This guy is really a weirdo. Sima Xian very straightforwardly said, "Brother Long, you helped me today. I'll remember this favor and will definitely return it in the future. I'll leave first and quickly go to the holy city to meet up with teacher. I'll also tell teacher about them obstructing me from participating in the selection. I'm leaving. See you again." With that, the bald, violent priest strode towards the holy city with his staff in hand. Lin Xin came to Long Houchin's side and couldn't help but giggle. "This baldy is really interesting. This is the first time I've seen a priest who doesn't know how to heal. Even if he enters the finals, will there be anyone willing to team up with him?" Long Houchin chuckled and said, "He's really a weirdo. Let's go." Holy City, Temple League headquarters. This city was gradually completed after the Dark Ages. It is the central organization of the Temple League. The Temple League doesn't have a country. This is the highest administrative organization, jointly managed by the 6 great temples. Every temple has a rank 9 powerhouse overseeing this place. They discuss all actions against the demons, as well as the internal management of the Temple League. The Holy City isn't divided into 4 sides like an ordinary city. It's a hexagonal city, symbolizing the 6 great temples. This is the most prosperous city in the entire Temple League, but there aren't any 6 great temples here. There's only the Alliance Executive Office. In the Holy City, there are 3 famous buildings, namely the Alliance Executive Office, the Sanctuary Alliance Auction House, and the Temple League Great Trial Grounds. These 3 buildings are located in the center of the Holy City, standing in a triangular formation. Among them, the Sanctuary Alliance Great Trial Grounds is specially used for the selection of monster hunters, as well as the advancement of monster hunters, as well as the acceptance of missions. Its importance is comparable to any one of the 6 great temples. It can be said that the 6 great temples control the powerhouses of their respective professions, but the Temple League controls all the monster hunters. Among the 3 famous buildings, this Great Trial Grounds is also the place that occupies the largest area. It's divided into 6 regions, each with a diameter of 300 m. There's also the exclusive Monster Hunters Mission Tower, Monster Hunters Trading Center, as well as the temple treasury. When Long Haochen and the others arrived at the gates of the holy city, Examiner Feng Yangmu appeared in front of them once again. He brought them into the holy city and went straight to the Sanctuary Alliance Great Trial Grounds to register. There are people from the 6 great temples in charge of receiving them at the registration place. Here, Long Haochen and the others are about to part ways. They have to go to their respective temple to participate in the preliminary competition. Big Sister Lin, Big Brother Chun, Second Brother Chun, all the best. Let's try our best to meet in the finals. Long Haochen said with a smile. Chen Si sighed and said, let's do our best. Looking at the brothers, it's obvious that they don't have much confidence. The competition in the warrior temple is the most intense. With their cultivation at the beginning stage of the 4th level and 2nd level, it's extremely difficult to enter the top 10. Lin Jialu smiled and said, Haochen, you and Xian Air have to do your best too. The 5 of them reluctantly parted ways and went to their respective temple reporting office to register. When Long Haochen and Lin Xian arrived at the Knights Templars reporting office, they immediately saw Yi Hua waiting there. Seeing Long Haochen and Lin Xian, Yi Hua didn't have any expression of surprise. He has confidence in his disciple. Lin Xian has a rose unicorn, and her cultivation isn't weak either. It would be weird if she didn't pass the trial. Teacher. Seeing Yi Hua, Long Haochen immediately went up to him excitedly. Yi Hua said, let's go and register first. We'll talk after we settle down. You all have 1 day to rest. The preliminary competition will begin the day after tomorrow. His expression was a little serious. The registration is very simple. You just have to hand in your token, get a new Knights Templars competition token, and complete the registration. If you don't complete the trial task, your token will definitely be taken back by the examiner. Therefore, you just have to verify the authenticity of the token. After the registration, Yi Hua brought Long Haochen and Lin Xian to a hotel near the Great Trial Field arranged by Knights Templars. After checking in, he directly brought them to his own room. The competition this time will be very intense. You all have to be mentally prepared. Yi Hua said with a gloomy face. Lin Xian and Long Haochen looked at each other, and their hearts trembled at the same time. Yi Hua said in a deep voice, I've asked around. This time, there are at least 100 people who pass the trial and can participate in the preliminary competition of Knights Templars. The exact number will depend on the final registration tomorrow. However, among the people who have already registered, there are already 3 Earth Knight. What? Lin Xian cried out in surprise. Earth Knight? A rank 5 Earth Knight? That's an existence that's almost the same as Yi Hua's cultivation. Moreover, once one's cultivation reaches rank 5, their spiritual power will gradually liquefy, and the power of all their skills will greatly increase. Although the Earth Knight and the Great Knight only have a difference of 1 word, the difference is like the difference between heaven and earth. Compared to Lin Xian's shock, Long Haochen was much calmer. Although he also had a shocked expression on his face, the determination in his eyes didn't change. Chapter 21. Calm down. Yi Hua glared at Lin Xian. The Monster Hunters tournament gathers all the elites of the Temple League. What's so strange about an Earth Knight appearing? Almost every tournament has one. Don't forget we, the Knights Templars, are the head of the 6th temple. It's not only our Knight Temple that has experts of the 5th step, the other temples also have experts of the 5th step. It can be understood that the final stage of the Demon Hunt trials is the competition for the top 10, which is practically the stage for experts of the 5th step. Don't think that just because you are outstanding in Hao US City, you can do the same here. First, set your mind right. Your task is to enter the top 10 in the preliminary round, and then enter the final stage. You could become a member of the Monster Hunters. Although there were many young powerhouses that appeared in this Demon Hunt selection, Yi Hua wasn't in a rush in his heart. Long Haochen is only 14 years old. He can still participate in the Monster Hunters tournament in the future. This time, he mainly hopes that his precious disciple will come here to gain experience. As for the ranking, that's for the next tournament. If Long Haochen is given another 5 years, the Earth Knight, he will at least be a peak Earth Knight. Of course, Yi Hua will not say this to Long Haochen, He does not want to wear down his disciples' fighting spirit. In a sense, the preliminary round is crueler than the final. The elimination round will be carried out by drawing lots. But the participants who are rank 5 and above will not have to fight in the first 2 rounds. Moreover, the temple will arrange for them to only have the opportunity to meet in the top 10 to ensure that our Knights Templars can get a good ranking in the final stage of the tournament. Therefore, you have to be 120% vigilant. No mistakes can be made. Otherwise, it is very likely that you will be eliminated in the first round. Yes, Long Haochen and Lin Xin replied respectfully. Yihua said, "All right, go back to your rooms and rest. Don't go out before the competition starts. The more you can increase your spiritual power, the higher your chances in the competition." Long Haochen returned to his room, and before he could even start cultivating, Yihua followed him. "Teacher." Long Haochen bowed respectfully towards Yihua. Yihua waved his hand and gestured for him to sit down. "Tell me what happened during your trial this time." Long Haochen naturally didn't hide anything. He recounted how they had killed the Luke tribe, the Earthho tribe, and finally the Jade Green dual-bladed demons in detail. After that, he did not hide the fact that he met Lin Xin and the violent priest Sima Xian. After hearing Long Haochen say that they had successfully killed the dark green dual-blade demons, Yihua couldn't help but reveal a smile on his face. However, his smile soon turned into anger. "Idiot, who told you to promise that guy? You've been cheated." Long Haochen was startled and said, "Teacher, Lin Xin seemed to be quite sincere. Also, the pill he gave me was really not bad." Yihua slapped his forehead and sighed softly. "You're still too young, child. Do you think that your chances of getting into the top 3 are not high? It doesn't matter even if you promise him?" Long Haochen didn't say anything, but he knew that he did have such thoughts at that time. You, what should I say about you? Since he has insight technique, he must have seen through your age and cultivation. You're only 14 years old. If you can't get into the top 3 this time, can't you make it into the top 3 next time? I dare to say that the kid is definitely not more than 20 years old and can also participate in the next election. Also, I'm afraid that his magic level isn't as simple as just being bad. Long Haochen lowered his head. "I'm sorry, teacher. I was wrong." Yihua took a deep breath. "Forget it. I've already promised him. What else can I do? A man's promise is worth 1,000 gold. Let me take a look at the pill he gave you." Long Haochen hurriedly took out the 3 types of pills and the energy pill from the forget-me-not and handed them to Yihua. That kid has a bit of conscience. These are all rank 4 pills. I'm afraid that these few bottles can't be bought even with 100,000 gold coins. If they were really made by him, even if his magic is bad, he can still be your teammate. Keep it well and work hard these 2 days. The goal I set for you is very simple. Enter the finals. The Monster Hunter selection does not have any audience, because the future members of the Monster Hunters will all have to face the demons. Their information must be kept secret. Therefore, for ordinary people, although they know that there is such a grand event, they don't know the process and the result. Long Haochen's number is 97, which is the same as his innate internal spiritual energy number. Lin Xion's number is 98. The day of the competition finally arrived. Early in the morning, Yihua brought the 2 of them to the Sanctuary Alliance's Great Trial Field. The entire Great Trial Field was built with the 6th temple in mind. Therefore, the 6 Great Trial Fields also belong to the 6th temple. Long Haochen and the others reported directly to the Night Trial Field with their number. As their teacher, Yihua showed the introduction letter given by the Consul of Hao U.S. City and the confirmation letter from the Night Palace of Hao U.S. City. Of course, each city can only send 1 teacher for each profession. When they reported yesterday, they had already completed the Bone Age test. Therefore, they can directly enter after checking their number. Brother Yihua, we meet again. Gue Ying and Gue Wu, the father and son, happened to report behind Long Haochen and the others. Yihua's eyes turned cold and said indifferently, "You better pray that your son doesn't meet Haochen." After saying this, he brought Long Haochen and Lin Xian inside. Gue Ying said coldly, "The one who should be worried is you." Yihua stopped and said without turning his head, Also, wash your face clean so that my hands won't be dirted. You. Gue Ying's face was filled with anger, and he almost exploded. However, Yihua had already brought Long Haochen and Lin Xian inside. The great trial field of the Covenant Alliance was not open air. Every trial field had a huge dome 20 meters above it, covering the trial field that was 300 meters in diameter below it. If one looked down from the sky, they would be able to see the Sanctuary Alliance's great trial field as 6 huge semicircular protrusions. As soon as they entered the night trial field, a strong wave of magic elements hit them in the face. The magic elements here seemed to be close to being solid. Although they weren't aggressive, they brought a kind of invisible pressure to them. On the dome above, they could vaguely see many huge magic symbols. Complicated magic arrays could be seen everywhere. They obviously had different functions. In the center of the great trial field, there was a huge square with a diameter of 200 meters. The ground was covered with yellow soil. It was said that there was also a big magic array under the yellow soil. No matter how the yellow soil was damaged, it could be restored in a short period of time. Around the square, there was a circle of stands. Among them, the tallest stand was particularly prominent. It was the platform of the great trial field. Such a strong wave of magic elements. Lin Xian exclaimed. Yihua said, "The magic array of this great trial field is enough to withstand the attack of a 9th-grade professional. How can the wave of magic elements not be strong?" Under the guidance of the staff of the great trial field, they came to the contestants' area and sat down. At this time, there were already many people. The contestants were all dressed in martial attire and looked very heroic. Not long after, the dome of the great trial field suddenly lit up. A huge circle of golden halo spread out from the dome. Because there was no audience, the surroundings of the great trial field seemed a little empty. However, there were already more than 10 people on the platform. However, because the platform was a little too high, it was difficult to see the situation on the platform from below. A powerful voice sounded from the platform. "The report is over. The preliminary round of the Monster Hunters trial has officially begun. I hope the contestants from each city will try their best. The rules of the competition state that you cannot intentionally injure your opponent. If one party dies, the other party will also be judged to have lost. The branch of the city will be held responsible. The preliminary round will be an elimination round. Today will be the first round. 138 people have reported in. 4 5th-grade contestants will have a bye in the first 2 rounds. The drawing of lots will begin. All contestants, get ready." It was unknown how this great trial field was controlled. In the middle of the dome, a huge golden ball of light slowly appeared. Then, a large number of numbers began to shine on the ball of light. Lin Xian murmured, "Such a famous Monster Hunters trial is actually so simple. There is also no opening ceremony." Yihua said indifferently, "This is a competition to select talents. It is not a show. Why do we need a ceremony? There are more than 130 people participating in the competition. There will be more than 60 matches on the first day. It is a waste of time. When will the competition be over?" While they were talking, the flashing numbers on the golden ball of light in the sky suddenly stopped. 2 huge numbers turned into halos and shot in the air. First match, number 29 against number 97. Both parties enter the arena. Those who do not enter the arena within 10 breaths will be judged to have lost. Number 97? Long Haochen was shocked. "Isn't that me?" Yihua and Lin Xian were shocked as well. No one expected that Long Haochen would be the first one to be picked. The other contestants in the surroundings all turned their gazes towards Long Haochen, who looked so young yet so handsome. Yihua had already reacted. He said hurriedly, "Deal with it calmly and steadily." "Okay," Long Haochen replied. He didn't dare to delay and had already walked out with large strides. He walked down the stairs and entered the competition field. Long Haochen's opponent was a young man who wore a full set of silver armor. He looked to be around 20 years old. Like him, he was also a guardian knight. He held a shield in his left hand and a heavy sword in his right. As the two of them entered the arena, a middle-aged man who wore a white outfit also entered the arena. He was obviously the referee of this match. Without any unnecessary words, when the two of them stood in the middle of the arena, about 50 meters away from each other, the referee shouted, "The match begins." You are not allowed to injure your opponent. If one side admits defeat or loses the ability to fight, the match will be considered a loss. Along with the referee's announcement, a layer of golden light enveloped the competition field, isolating the arena from the spectator stands. Just as Long Houchin was about to start his first battle in the Monster Hunters tryouts in another space. Darkness. This was a pitch-black world. The wind was raging, and the purple moon in the sky was emitting a bewitching radiance. The earth was cracked, and surging magma and poisonous gas could be seen everywhere. In a deep cave, Hao Yue was quietly crawling there. Both Light and Fire's eyes were shining with dazzling brilliance. In front of them, the stone ball that they had spent 10,000 gold coins to buy had a crack on it. Traces of green brilliance were constantly spreading out from within the stone ball. Light and Fire were constantly taking deep breaths, swallowing the green brilliance into their stomachs. The three purple light patterns on their backs were constantly flashing. Their bodies were also emitting a violent and bloody aura. For sharp claws were fiercely digging into the ground. Through the crack on the stone ball, one could see that there seemed to be a green sphere inside. The surface of the sphere was actually in the shape of scales. As the green light flickered, one could vaguely see that there seemed to be a lizard-like body inside. And it was precisely this green sphere that was emitting an invisible majesty. That was dragon might. If Lin Xian were to see this green sphere inside the stone ball, he would probably be so regretful that his intestines would turn green. This was shockingly a dragon core. A level 7 pill dragon core. The dragon clan was extremely rare, but each true giant dragon was at least a level 8 powerhouse. The strongest Dragon King was even as high as level 10, equivalent to a human level 9 powerhouse. The biggest problem that plagued the Dragon Clan was reproduction. They often only had a chance to conceive offspring once every 1,000 years. And the reason why dragon cores were so rare was also related to this. Because dragon cores were dragon eggs that had yet to hatch, formed after 1,000 years of absorbing the spiritual energy of heaven and earth. Since it was so difficult for the Dragon Clan to give birth to offspring, one could imagine how much they cherished their own dragon eggs. Therefore, dragon eggs that could form dragon cores were really too rare. In terms of rarity, it even surpassed some level 8 pills. Dragon cores were useful to both humans and magical beasts. If humans consumed it, then they would directly possess a certain amount of Dragon Clan bloodline. Their internal and external spiritual energy would explosively increase by at least 300, and the upper limit of external spiritual energy cultivation would also increase to 5,000. Consuming a dragon core was equivalent to possessing the potential to cultivate to at least level 7. And for magical beasts to consume dragon cores, the requirements were much higher. First, they had to have the bloodline of the Dragon Clan to be able to digest the dragon core. Secondly, their cultivation could not be lower than level 6. Only then would they be able to promote evolution after consuming it, and have the powerful effect of evolving to level 1. What Hao Yue was currently absorbing and swallowing was precisely the spiritual energy emitted by the dragon core. And looking at its appearance, it did not seem to be afraid of any backlash from the dragon core. Roar! Little Light let out a low growl. Little Fire looked at it and nodded slightly. Faint purple light emitted from the top of their heads, and each of them actually slowly grew a purple horn. They slightly moved forward, and the horns on their heads pushed forward at the same time. With a paw, they had already embedded themselves into the hard stone shell of the dragon core. The two heads moved in succession. Under their purple horns, the stone shell was actually as fragile as tofu. After a while, a dark green dragon core with the appearance of dragon scales was already revealed. At this moment, Little Light and Little Fire's eyes completely changed from the original gold and red to a deep purple in an instant. Raising their heads, they looked into the distance, thinking of their companion in the other world. Big brother, wait for us to return. Little light abruptly lowered its head, opened its mouth wide, and swallowed that green dragon core into its stomach. In just an instant, intense green flames had already risen from their bodies, and the protrusion on one side of Little Light's neck squirmed violently. A strong, desolate aura surged out in an explosive manner.